than you.
All right, here we go.
All right, let's roll.
Well, good morning. Today is January 10th, 2020. It's hard to believe it's already the 10th. You are part of our annual planning work session. Just time for us to come together and talk about last year, talk about this year. Won't be real formal today. We try to keep this pretty informal and just have good conversations among commissioners. But we're going to start off our meeting like we always do. And we're going to have our chaplain come forward and lead us in what's called a solemnizing prayer. This is for the commissioners. You know, we work hard as commissioners. We appreciate the trust that the county has entrusted to us. But we don't know everything. I know that's hard to believe. And so we do our best to ask for wisdom to make decisions that are in the best of all the folks of Rowan County. And so we have our fine chaplain here with us today to lead us. After that, we'll have a pledge. And so, commissioners, if you'll join me, we'll get started.
Well, Lord, we'd like to say thank you for another day you've given us, and thank you for the county commissioners being here today as we have this meeting today, the planning session. Pray as we look at the different things to be discussed, you'll give them the wisdom they need to make the right decisions for not only today, but the days ahead, dear Lord. Thank you for them and their dedication that they have for what they do, dear Lord. Guide and direct them today, Lord, and thank you for the privilege we have to know them and work with them, Lord. Blessings upon them, Lord. Give them the wisdom they need today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chaplain Taylor. Are you under the weather?
I'm a whole lot better. I was ready for I'm on the mend.
Well, good. Hope you're feeling better, and would also mention our county clerk has not been feeling well, and we hope that, you know, thank you for being here today, and hope you feel better soon. So it's going around. My wife's got it. I've avoided it so far, but I'm sure it's coming. Everyone else all right? Josh, you all right? You ready? All right. Okay. Any predictions for Monday night? Huh? Big win, Tigers? Oh, yeah, Tigers going to win, right?
He is talking about Clemson, isn't he?
He's talking about Clemson. Josh Bergeron is a big LSU fan, so good luck Monday night. All right, so let's get started. We have an agenda in front of us. Commissioner Klusman has an amendment that she'd like to add. What's that?
At one on your agenda, if you go down to 130 where it says funding for Smart Start, that should be funding for substance abuse.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I don't see anybody here from Rowan Community College, Rowan Cabarrus Community College.
I spoke with Craig Lamb at about 7:30 this morning, and he is sick, but someone from Rowan Cabarrus is coming.
Well, they're supposed to, but we have them on here at 9:10,
Ooh.
and it doesn't look like they're going to be here. Craig had been in the hospital, and that's why he had a problem, and he was in the hospital, and that's why he's not here this morning. But if we could possibly move them to later this afternoon, and then I'll make contact with the college and see who's supposed to be here and why they're not here, if that's all right.
Yeah, we can move ahead to the subdivision street standards. While we're doing that, I can text Craig and say, hey, you said someone's coming.
Yeah, I spoke with him myself a couple of days ago, and he gave me the person's name at that point in time, but that was several days ago, and it's gone.
All right, so we've got one amendment. Anything else? No. All right, all in favor of approving the amended agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Okay, so we'll get started. We'd like to welcome back to Rowan County Julie Brenman. Julie is a senior consultant with Fountain Works. We're real familiar with them. They've done a lot of work here in Rowan County for the county, for the city, for Chamber of Commerce, I think in the past. Julie joined Fountain Works in 2012 as a senior consultant. That was not referring to your age, but as referring to your experience, I know. She has over 15 years of municipal executive experience in the city of Durham, the city of, and the city and county of San Francisco, California. You're glad to be here, aren't you? Yeah. And currently serves as an adjunct instructor for the University of North Carolina Chapel Hill School of Government. Her areas of expertise include city and county management, budget and finance, strategic planning, citizen engagement, capital improvements, program evaluation, performance measurement, business operations, and organizational development. She's written a book. Have we gotten a book from you, a signed copy? No? Oh, come on now. She's written a book on local government budgeting and a chapter on the use of trained observers and program evaluation. Her education credentials include a BA from University of California, Berkeley, John F. Kennedy School of Government, and Harvard University. So, wow. So welcome, and welcome back, and the floor is yours.
So you have a full agenda. You have a lot of presentations and topics that you want to discuss. So for most of the day, we'll be going through the topics. At the end of each presentation, we'll try and capture some key takeaways. Issues that you want to consider to move forward with. And I'll help you do that. At the end of the day, we'll talk about priorities for the 2020-2021 fiscal year.
All right. I suppose they'd like to hear us if we actually have something to say, huh?
Hello?
Mine works.
Hello? Yep, I guess I'm on.
That's okay. So I was just saying, we're going to wrap up at the end of the day by talking about your priorities for the next fiscal year. That helps the county manager prepare a budget that meets your expectations and helps you think a little bit long-term. So with that, I'll turn it back to you for the first presentation.
Speak a little longer.
A little longer? Oh, you're chewing. I'm so happy to be back in Rowan County.
That's just long enough, thank you. All right, we're going to skip ahead then. We've got some folks from DOT here. We have our friend, Pat Ivy is here, and honored to have you here today, Pat. Thanks for being here. And so you guys are on our agenda for 9:40, but our 9 o'clock, 9:10 folks are late. So we're going to move you all up unless y'all want to take a break and wait for 9:40. No, you're good? All right, well, good. So you guys come on up. We've got our some of our emergency services folks here. We have our fire marshal in the back of the room. Appreciate you being here, Deborah Horn. So if you guys will come on up.
Hold on. I'm sorry. This microphone, for a reason, is advancing its volume without me touching it. So if it's okay with you, we'll just use this as an alternative, and I'll keep that muted. I'm so sorry about that. Unless I hold my finger on the button, it continues to advance in sound, and then we get feedback.
Yeah, want your finger on the button.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry.
All right, very good. All right, we are here to really to respond to any questions that you all have. We know that the issue with the subdivision road design standards, this has been an issue that's been discussed across the state. As I understand, several of my counterparts from across the state have had discussions with their local county commissioners as well. So we are here. I've got my division maintenance engineer, John Ryan, here to address any, I guess, questions concerning cost, maintenance implications, and things like that. And of course, Mazak Tucker, who is our district engineer and is responsible for the review and approval of any subdivision plans. So the floor is open, and we're here to respond to you all.
All right, so kind of bring you all up to speed and the rest of the commissioners and the press up to speed at was it our last meeting? Was it our last meeting we discussed this, Deborah? Was it just our last meeting?
No, it was way before that one.
Yeah, so it was in December, maybe. So we're talking about adopting Appendix D into our, how do we put that, Deborah? Subdivision. Thank you. And we don't know all the terminology, so thank you. So we asked if we could table that so we could get more information on it. I would say that, you know, as commissioners, we don't know everything, and a lot of times we need to get more education from folks who know these things to really be able to comprehend the issue. So the fire marshal, along with our EMS director, Chris Solis, and the lieutenant was with us. And so we met earlier this week, Vice Chair Green and I did, so these folks were kind enough to meet and help educate us on the issues. And so we met with the planning department folks, Ed Muir and Shane, and Aaron was there, and so we just wanted to get up to speed on what the request was and what we could do. We had conference calls earlier this week with a lot of different communities. These were arranged by the planning department for us to talk to planning departments from around the region to figure out how they've handled this issue, because this is a big ask. And so then, as I said, later in the week, we met with our emergency services folks to educate us on this. There are two issues that it really boiled down to that folks from emergency services says these are two things that we really have to have. And one of those is the road widths in the subdivisions. Currently our standard is 18 feet road widths. That's the DOT standard. And so as this Appendix D issue works its way around the state, the question from many municipalities and counties is that this extra 2 feet that's being asked for by emergency personnel, is that going to be covered? Is the maintenance going to be covered on that? And so that's one thing we'll talk to you about today. So it seemed reasonable to us in that meeting that 20 feet is something, because understand, in Rowan County we have little water and sewer. So you're not, in most instances, you're not rolling into a subdivision in the county that has hydrants. So they're pulling a firefighting vehicle, a large firefighting vehicle, onto a street, and then a couple of things are happening. Either water trucks are pulling in and out of there and reloading and then going back to load up again, or they're setting up pools of water that can be drawn from. If we had hydrants in the county, 18 feet may be okay. But when you're trying to get water trucks in and out to fight fires that are going past the firefighting vehicles, then 18 feet in a county with no fire hydrants is difficult. And depending on the topography off of the edge of the road, it could be something that's not good. And at the very minimum, we're knocking over citizens' mailboxes and driving through their yards to stage vehicles to fight fires. These are things that Jim and I didn't understand, and so we asked the other commissioners permission to meet with these folks to help us understand what the issues were. And again, thank you to the folks that met with us to help us on this. The other thing is going to be the issue of cul-de-sacs. So as these other vehicles pass by, fire trucks that are actively fighting the fire, when we've got a lot of cul-de-sacs in this community, and there will be more that are built. The standard of 70 feet is not adequate for these big trucks to turn around in without jeopardizing, again, either time or vehicles or property. And so while Appendix D asks for a 96-foot cul-de-sac, our local folks said they could do with 90 feet, and so we're willing to support that as well. So these are two, we believe, simple things. When your fire marshal and the director of our emergency services sits across the table from you and says, we have to have this. This is for everybody's benefit and safety. We don't believe it's up to us to change that. So that brings all of us up to speed and lets you know kind of where we are. So our questions are simple, because as we move to approve these things, one question that there is that has come up, I think, across the state is the DOT has a standard of 18 feet. We're about to embark on a 20-foot road. What is your position on maintaining those roads? Is the county going to be tasked with keeping maintenance on the additional 2 feet and the larger cul-de-sacs, or is that something that you all are willing to do? Yeah, come.
And at the district engineer's discretion, the developer could propose a larger road, and we review those all the time. High-end subdivisions, per se, will oftentimes put a larger road than 18. 20's a nice width, and in the days when we were widening roads and kind of improving secondary roads, 20 or 22 was what we shot for. Don't have a problem at all with 20 feet. We'll maintain whatever you put out there as long as it's reasonable. 20 is certainly reasonable. It's going to run the cost up a little bit. Not a lot. At a certain point, you get a little wider, and you're going to see speeds increase. I think 20 is reasonable. I don't think we'll see. But no, as far as maintenance, 20 foot is not a problem at all. The cul-de-sac. You're probably going to end up seeing more cars parked in the cul-de-sac because it's going to be more inviting. You'll probably also see some more basketball goals installed, things like that, and we'll have to police those. Not allow them right away. One of the issues we will probably see, and I'd have to look at the drawing, I've got it, is our current right-of-way for a cul-de-sac will not encompass a 90-foot cul-de-sac. So we'll probably have to do some changes on our end to encompass that pavement in right-of-way and enough shoulder outside of the cul-de-sac to maintain drainage and
Can you speak to what you typically see? Now, the reasoning that was given to us is Rowan County has physically taken out their firefighting vehicles, and they have tested what the turn radius is and what they need, and so we're told that at a minimum they're going to need 90 feet. So what do you typically see?
Can't speak to fire trucks. We don't own any. We'll leave that to y'all. Single axle dump trucks, tandem axle and tri-axle dump trucks. Single axle dump truck can turn in the standard 70 foot without any problem. A tandem axle can turn, making one pull up and one back up and then coming out. If there's a car parked in there, all bets are off, just depending on where that car is parked. School buses typically make it pretty good, except at their very last exit, where the cul-de-sac radius is tied into the tangent section. And oftentimes, depending on the geometry, we will see those outside edges eaten out, and over time we'll end up patching those out and kind of making, instead of a perfect circle, you kind of get more of a teardrop. your large cul-de-sac would take care of that. Assuming that they don't line the outside with cars. I can, I'm sorry. I usually get accused of being too loud.
Does April get paid every time she comes in here? There must be some reason she,
Hear a ding every time she passes a doorway there.
Did everybody hear that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
How about a tractor trailer that's got a 50-foot trailer? Because to me, that's almost about the same length as
They'll have to
one of the
back out.
big new fire trucks.
Turning accommodations are going to be much better because the vehicle breaks 15 or 20 feet back. There is something called a wheel stop. It's the angle the manufacturer puts into a vehicle.
Okay,
as to
so
how
it's
much
different
radius.
than a school bus, for instance. Okay.
And just to speak offhand, I couldn't tell you how it will fit on a 90. My guess is it probably won't make a 90. You're coming down a 10-foot lane. The 10-foot lane is in the center of that circle. If that 10-foot lane was off to the side of the circle a little bit better, it could probably make it. But he's going to be in the center of the road, approaching that circle.
Yeah.
Geometry-wise,
Yeah.
I wouldn't dare to say.
Yeah. Well, I was just trying to have some apples and apples,
Yeah.
you know, trying to think about how that was going to work.
I live in a cul-de-sac, and every morning I hear the school bus coming by, and it makes it circle, and out it goes. So, anyway, so anything else to add from you guys? When we initially, I think, asked you all to come out, the intent was we were going to have a long discussion like we had with them, kind of informally in another boardroom. So I think this discussion was going to be really long. We opted instead to kind of move to a
Topic first came up months and months ago. The numbers that we were hearing coming out of these regulations, not for Rowan, but I'm just talking about statewide, were significantly larger than 20 feet. And that is what drew our attention to this. As John mentioned, 20 foot is not an issue. The width of the roundabout, I mean, the back there, we can deal with that. The right-of-way width is probably the bigger thing, and that's just what the subdivision ordinance will have to take that into consideration about how large that right-of-way width needs to be. And I believe whatever the corresponding increase in pavement width, your right-of-way is going to increase that, probably that same amount.
Appendix D did call for some 26 feet pavement. Our folks said, we don't need that, we need 20, we need 90, we can forgo the 26.
And we appreciate the consideration there in terms of what is reasonable. And as John said, 20 feet is already in our standard anyway. Typically, your larger roads, the ones that typically handle more traffic in subdivisions, will get that. But making all roads a minimum of 20 is not an issue at all for DOT.
Okay. Well, again, this came from Deborah Horn, so we appreciate
Mr. Chairman,
middle ground, and that's due to those guys, so.
Are there any other questions or issues that, while we're here, that?
not to you, more to Deborah and the chairman.
You know, we spend a lot of time telling the citizens of Rowan County we don't have anything to do with roads. And then one of the biggest issues that's coming up now is roads. And so I hate to get in the middle of all of this, but it seems that it has fallen on us. To the citizens of Rowan County, I'd just like to say that we're talking about the future of developments in Rowan County. We're not talking about going back, and we're talking about, if the other commissioners agree, we're probably talking about developments that are over 30 lots that these things will take place for. The biggest thing that I found was that Deborah let us know very gently that she had the ultimate responsibility anyway, and that if she wanted to, she could make it whatever she wanted, being the fire marshal of Rowan County. So I appreciate her talking with us and making the concessions that we think that they're going to make here. But Rowan County, again, has a problem with water outside of the municipalities typically. And we have to face this problem that we're going to have larger and larger fire trucks and tankers especially, because we don't have hydrants, we don't have water out in the community. This is the only way we've got to put out fires. And to my contractor friends, I know this is going to cost some extra money, and I don't like it from that aspect, that we're doing anything to cost them extra money. But Greg and I have been in the insurance business. He's been in it about half as long as I have, because he's just
I've been alive
so
half as
much
long as
younger.
you,
Yeah, that's the point I was trying to make without saying that. Fires happen, and, you know, I'm not worried about my wife's cat getting caught in the house, but I am concerned about me getting caught in the house and not having proper fire service coming.
Don't put that in the paper. Yes, you are.
Oh,
I know you, yeah. I'm going to give you a chance to back up.
Thank you.
and
Yes,
restate
I really didn't. That was the old cat that died. The new cat I love. I think I'm about through, sir.
that. Yes, sir. In a lot of ways, you are. Time to quit.
I might add just a last thing, as you all begin to develop the ordinance, the wording and all that, obviously Mazak and his staff and John will be more than happy to work with Ed Muir and Aaron and the rest of the group and be happy to provide whatever guidance we can in terms of reviewing that, and so just as we always have.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you guys for coming, and Happy New Year to you, and thank you for all you're doing for us. I want to clean up one thing that, I just want to add this. There are trade-offs. If you live in a county without standards of sidewalks like municipalities have, you don't pay the taxes for municipalities, you don't have water hydrants like a municipality has, there's just some trade-offs. If you don't have all of those things, you've got to make up for it in some other way. And the way we're having to do that is by providing wider streets. It's what it really comes down to. If you live in the city limit, I don't think it's going to be any different in the city limits, but we could probably do with an 18-foot road in a city limit because we've got hydrants. I'm not asking you to prove that, but I'm just making the point that there's a difference when we're having to truck in water. We can't have it all in the county. We got lower taxes, but there are some things that we have to make up for because we don't have the utilities that a municipality has. So this isn't something we're going to vote on today. We're going to bring it back up. I don't know, we stated in some next meeting, so we'll have a public hearing on that, and then we'll vote on it then. We just wanted to get through this part. All right. Let's see what we got next.
Yeah, I think our friends from Rowan Cabarrus is here.
Oh, good.
so
Well,
we can-
welcome. Good. All right. So first on our agenda was an update for Better Jobs for Better Lives. And so our good friends from Rowan Cabarrus are here, so welcome.
We are here and unfortunate that Craig Lamb can't be with us today, but we are very thankful for the opportunity. Sorry about the confusion. We got a different time. We were downstairs. We enjoyed catching up, talking about it for you guys, but I'm gonna Thank you. I'll just go ahead and get started. My name is Mary Allman, and I am the Director for R3 Career Services with Rowan Cabarrus Community College, and I've been part of the Better Lives for Better Jobs for Better Rowan County team since we started. Thank you. And I have with me Tashina Mahatha, and Tashina is also with Rowan Cabarrus Community College, and she is a business account manager and part of the team. And in just a moment, we're going to get to hear, we are very happy to bring with us a participant in the Better Lives, Better Jobs program for Rowan County. And we'll hear from Cecilia in just a little bit and tell you about her story. So when we started this initiative back in 2017, it was a real, to put an initiative with a title that was called Better Jobs, Better Lives was very courageous and came with a lot of room and territory to cover on that. And the idea behind that is that recognizing that there were people throughout the county that were in need of some type of career development service, and what that would entail. We talked about the fact that across the county that it changed, the needs changed, and we needed to make sure that the services were available and that people could recognize all the advantages and the opportunities that were available throughout the county. And more importantly, with our partners and with our educational opportunities for career transition. And so when we started this in 2017, and the hallmark of this program is the R3 Career Services team. And R3 stands for Refocus, Retrain, Reemploy. And this is a model that we started as a college back with following the Pilatex closing. And the model was designed to say that it's not a one-size-fits-all, that there are many different needs when it comes to addressing building the workforce within an area, and understanding that it's not just about having scholarships or benefits available, it's about understanding what the needs are and how to advise individuals into those career paths. From the Refocus, Retrain, Reemploy, about 90% of what we do, it falls in the refocus realm. So it's great to go out and talk about programs that we have in school. It's great to talk about career opportunities, employment opportunities, but it's more important to understand where they are and understanding how they can connect and be a part of those opportunities. And with this initiative, we have been able to reach and expand more than we ever have before. And in the process, it has been such an amazing thing. And we're very thankful just even to start and say thank you for what you've done, not only for us, for what you've done for us as a college and for workforce development professionals that have done this, but for the close to 2,000 Rowan County citizens that you've touched in the process. We've actually, through this initiative, you've done amazing work in being able to almost defy economics here. And I have handouts for you, but I wanted to show you through the trends with our unemployment rates as it's gone through the county. When we started this initiative in January of 2017, we had an unemployment rate of 5.3. Through the life of this initiative, our unemployment rate has actually gone down. And economics will tell you, and what we will be able to tell you, is that when the unemployment rate is low, so is the demand typically driven for workforce development related issues from clients coming in and talking to us about careers and associate. We defied those odds through this initiative. Through this initiative, we continue to grow in the number of Rowan County individuals that we were able to touch. We have had our biggest jump from 2018 to 2019. And I want to make sure and point out to you, this is not a duplicated head count. So if an individual came in and started seeing us in 2017 and we're still in communication with us, this is not, it's per year. Those are the unique individuals that we touched in that year. What's amazing is that we've seen about a 43% increase from 2018 to 2019. And what that means is that through your assistance, we've been planting seeds throughout the county and letting them know how the county is supporting them and taking a look at what their future opportunities look like with workforce development. We did that during, I'm sorry. Sure, sure. Throughout the life of this initiative, we have seen, and this was at the time that we pulled December statistics, we've seen 1,974 Rowan County citizens through this initiative. They were told, we are coming to you through the Better Lives, Better Jobs for Better Lives for a Better Rowan County. And we did talk to them and find out where are you at. So from the result of that, there was opportunities through the funding for scholarship in addition to getting us where we were. What are the services that they took advantage of? Each one that came in, each one of those close to 2,000 were assigned a career coach that would go through and address their individual needs. They also had opportunities for your workforce development skills, including resume and interview, foundational skills. They had access to all those things. They also had access to going into a particular training program. Here's what it didn't do. We did not go out and say, hey, there's free money, there's free scholarships that are available for you. It was, we're going to help you with the better lives. So we worked at what we could do to help them have a better life. And when we're talking about individuals that had multiple jobs, that maybe didn't want to work, one target population we ended up working with were parents of adult children who were at home that needed to take a look at career development in order to get them self-sufficient and in the workplace. We learned a lot in that process, but that falls into the refocus realm of what we do. We have multiple locations that can be found on a regular weekly basis. Our headquarters being NC Works, we're at Rowan Helping Ministries, Goodwill Career Connections, but through the Better Jobs program, we have been able to be on the road. So in this time since 2017, we have many people that have called us throughout the county and say, we need you to come out. One of the best examples of that is in October, we were contacted by Freightliner. Better Lives representatives, including myself, went and worked at the plant the week before the closing, and we were able to meet with a portion of the 400 individuals that had received indication of that they have a pending layoff. A lot of times when we're dealing with layoffs, people want to know about, benefits and things that are connected with that to help them go back into training, in addition to looking for another job. What was particularly critical with the Freightliner piece is that they were in process and are in process filing for a trade petition, which would have included additional benefits. Through the Better Jobs program, we were able to go to that plant and say, if the benefits aren't coming in, your county has you. We can help you right now, today. You don't have to wait till your unemployment benefits run out. We will help you. And that is how we got to meet Miss Cecilia. Cecilia was, we met on a Saturday through a meeting that was a part of a rapid response for Freightliner, and we were able to connect with her and get her assigned a career coach. We started talking about careers. Through the Better Jobs program, we were able to set up workshops within NC Works to explore careers, and then she actually received a scholarship to go in the training, and I'm gonna let you talk to her in a second, but the scholarship numbers that you're gonna have, I wanna make sure and point some things out. So you're seeing that you had you had close to 2,000 Rowan County citizens that receive a touch and a service through Better Lives, and you see the numbers of the scholarships that were awarded. One of the things that we've done a really good job is linking leveraging with other funding sources to make sure that we have the most opportunity for our participants. When we meet them, we tell them, I don't want you to be concerned with funding. I want you to be concerned with making the career path that's going to lead to your focus. And so when you look at these numbers, one of the things that's going to come up, you're going to see right away, is that healthcare is the leading request when it comes to the scholarships that have gone through the Better Lives, Better Jobs program. I have Tashina here, and Tashina runs our truck driving programs. I want to point out that from statistically, that's maybe not a fair picture as to what the demand-driven actually is on scholarships, because there are funding opportunities that are connected to other programs. Most importantly, our North Carolina Manufacturing Institute, which is also with Tashina. We have sustainability funding that comes through those programs. So they're not going to show up as funding through the Better Jobs program, but they were connected because of the Better Jobs program. And I'll just kind of pause right here and see if you have any questions for Cecilia as your scholarship recipient and successful going forward.
Yeah, I'm chewing here. Carrie, you talked about the needs, and I'm just wondering, as far as the needs of the student as they're trying to go through this program, what are you seeing as far as childcare needs, transportation needs, and healthcare? Because it seems that those are the three things that can divert people from being able to have a good job and also, I would imagine, training.
From our side, one of the biggest challenge that we have is the plan, is being able to navigate through the resources to be able to make the career planning opportunities, of course. And through that comes access to maybe some of those services that can help them in areas that fall outside of the actual training. So transportation is always going to be a very key part of the refocus process, because we have to make a game plan on what are you going to do or how can we address these needs. And especially when we're dealing with the outer parts of the county, and we know statistically that we have people that are driving over 20 miles, to get to their job locations, and in many of those cases. And so we have to create a game plan. Transportation is definitely an issue that we have to work on. We are amazed in this how many individuals that we're seeing that have just opted not to drive in terms of our career, the people that are coming in for career development services. Childcare, we have excellent partnerships through our Department of Health and Human Services and with our friends at the Community Action Agency, so that we're able to identify what are some childcare related needs. We actually have more success in connecting with that need than we do with transportation, as it continues to be something that we look at in how we can get to all parts of the county, not just the inner city. So that has been one of the biggest challenges that we've had.
And what about healthcare?
That has not been something that has been cited right now. Healthcare as a whole, healthcare related issues, getting them access and understanding where they need to be connected with some of those services so that they can get attention to the healthcare that they need. Sometimes it hasn't been on the largest scale that we've been dealing with since 2017.
Thank you.
I also just wanted to point out that in partnership with this initiative, and Tashina and I are leads on this past year in 2019, the college was the recipient of a 2019 innovation grant from the governor. And the focus of that is Rebuild Your Future. And we were awarded that at the beginning of 2019. And what that focuses on is for us to have an opportunity to target and look for individuals who are justice involved. And we actually hired recruiters that are a part of this. So what the recruiters do is they're specialized and trained. They have expertise in how to specifically work with individuals that are justice involved. And that's going to range. That is going to include people that have recently been incarcerated, but that's going to include somebody that has something on their criminal record in general. And because we know how this impacts all of them as they're making a career plan and looking for work. With those recruiters, they have actually been boots on the ground here in Rowan County. They have covered many of the territories. I have one particular recruiter that focuses a lot in the East Spencer area, and we have done phenomenal work. We have over 200 Rowan County residents that are justice involved that came in 2019, and they're coming in for the program, but they're connected through Better Jobs for Better Lives. Wow. That's where they get their case management from.
Could you explain or just a little bit about how you're working in the high schools and having folks in the high schools. It's not necessarily with Better Jobs for Better Lives, but just, it is connected to that also some. So would you talk of that just a minute?
The college actually has career coaches that are located in some of our high school campus locations that are connected with us and with the programs to make sure that we're creating awareness all the way around that holistic approach. I know that our student life, who's in charge of that outreach and recruitment and strategies within the high school system, is always doing a great job in feeding back into us and telling us of the needs that are coming in that they are seeing from the kids that are currently in high school right now and what that may mean as a result when they're coming out. We've worked together to have representation in the high school, particularly at South Rowan. We have been at some functions through Better Lives to go in and talk about how are you exploring your career options as you're looking at leaving high school. There are a lot of kids right now that do not have the 4-year plan that's to track with that, and maybe do not even plan on looking at a 2-year option or any training outside of high school, but they need to have that conversation about what is that workplace readiness need that you're going to have. So it's been very beneficial to have this partnership between us and our student life to be able to reach in our children that are in that age range, which we do not, our services are not tailored for that age range. But what we have learned is that the message is universal and the same. And so we're working with our staff within the college that are actually on site to make sure and spread the word. And by the default, making sure that the parents of these children know that this initiative is here for them and that they have opportunities just as much as the children to explore what their career options are.
Did I hear you breathe?
Yeah, but you go ahead. Breathe hard. Carrie, one of the things I would really encourage RCCC to do is to start partnering with Teen Court, because these are the kids that are just getting into trouble. And so they're in teen court rather than full court. So Karen South Jones with the Wise Up runs teen court and other youth diversion programs, trying to help kids get on the right track. So if that's something that RCCC could look into, and I've got the contacts if you need them, I think it would be really great for those kids that are right on the edge.
Thank you.
You know, with renewal going on with our local school system, they want to see folks enlisted, enrolled, or employed. So it sounds like there's just common ground there, and I know we've talked about this before. One of my favorite things that Craig talks about is that we chuckle about all the time is we are all very busy building silos of excellence that we're not connected. So everyone has great intention and they're working very hard, but we seem to be working separate and oftentimes duplicating efforts, funding, and all of that. And so we're very, very unorganized, and this just isn't Rowan County, this is from the federal government on down. We're very unorganized. And so as our school system moves toward these 3 E's, enrollment, enlisted, or employed, you guys certainly should fold into that. And our conversations twice a month with our education collaborative is purposeful in trying to tear down those silos and let's build a vision together. I appreciate Commissioner Klusman bringing that up, and as I spoke with Craig this morning, he told me that you would be here and that you would speak about some of the questions I've had for him. And I know that at 12:30 today, we have on our agenda to talk about education and second chance training. I asked that that be put on the agenda. I don't have a big agenda item to talk about, but I think instead of bringing this up at 12:30, which to me was just going to be really a 5-minute discussion as we talk about goals for 2020, this might be the appropriate time to bring that up. And it's not a big conversation. It's simply to say that we recognize this issue, that we have, again, all of these silos. Karen's part of that, you're part of that, school system's part of that, the DA's part of that, the sheriff's part of that, but this issue of recidivism in our prisons is a big issue, and there's the moral issues that surround that we want these folks to return to their families, their neighborhoods, and their community and be productive part of our community and live a good, happy life after paying their debt. But the odds are stacked against them because the statistics are overwhelming that most of them are once again at least arrested, and a lot of them incarcerated. From the federal prison standpoint, it's over 50%. From the local prison, it's almost 40%. And speaking with the sheriff, I asked, do you have recidivism rates? And they don't have that, but they're working on that. But, you know, they said they tend to just arrest the same folks over and over. So what is our plan? You know, what is our plan for that? And so my intention of this discussion at 12:30 isn't to say that I have a plan, because I don't, but there are models across the country where these silos are coming together and having a larger discussion. You know, as we all become commissioners, the question that is asked us, why do you want to be a commissioner? What do you want to do? What do you want to do as a commissioner? And it can't just be education. It can't just be economic development. It can't just be safety. It's got to be all of that. It's an all-inclusive vision of how do we make this community a better place for everybody, and how do we create opportunity for everybody from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top, from the folks who made bad decisions to those who make good decisions. We're all the same, and so we've got to look at how do we provide those opportunities. So I'm glad you're here. I don't really have much more to say about that. I'm talking with quite a few folks about who is a model out there. You know, Joe Gibbs organizations are very much involved in this. Nanette Dillon I've been talking to. She's been talking to a couple other communities. I know Piedmont Correctional Institute. You all are, Ron Cabarrus is involved in that. But Craig Lamb told me that just recently, in the past few weeks, legally, you all have been granted the permission to go into our county jails, not just state facilities. And so now that's a whole new deal. And so what is our conversation about how do we help those who are scheduled to come out to have hope? And to me, that's a big deal. I say the word hope a lot because I think that's what folks want, whether they're a kid coming up or whether they're folks that have made a bad decision and coming out of jail. We need to, if they don't have hope, then why in the world do we not think that they're going to end right back up? If not in trouble, at least at home without hope. So what do? So this is part of the total vision that I think we as commissioners who are asked to do good things for this community, I think we need to be talking about. So that'll do away with our 12:30 agenda item, and we can just go to lunch now if y'all want. So, but I want to hear from some success stories, and so let's hear from your guest.
So if we could just tell them about the program that you're in, that would be great.
Well, I was laid off in October.
So introduce yourself, and where are you from?
I'm originally from Florida, but I grew up in Salisbury.
In what part of Florida?
Fort Walton Beach.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
And I moved back here about 5 years ago, and I started working for Daimler. I was laid off twice. Last year was my second time. And R3 came, and they had their program. and I started working with Rebecca. Upon working with Rebecca, I went to Keller Williams, and I was going to apply as a paralegal, but they had already filled the position. So he was like, well, if you get your real estate license, you can be an agent. So this program helped me, and then next month when I take my test, hopefully I can hit the ground running.
Oh, good. So you can be a real estate agent.
Yes.
Well, you are coming at the right time because there's going to be a lot of houses sold here in the next 10 years. Good for you. Good for you. Well, anything else to add?
I'm kind of nervous, but
Well, you don't look it, so good.
Cecilia,
yes, ma'am.
how would we go about getting more unemployed women, especially women that have been from families that have been generationally not employed, whether they're on assistance or whatever? But how do we get those folks involved?
Well, I'm a first generation grad of college. My mom didn't go to college, but and my grandmother didn't either. And I myself, started working for Daimler so that I could save for college. And I did that, and I graduated in 2018. And my goal after, getting employed was to go back and save up more money to finish. And so I got laid off in October, and that cut it short. So in my mind, I was like, okay, I don't want to go back to Daimler again and get laid off again. So I'm going to have to really find my niche and find something that I want to do as a career. I also have 4 kids, but I'm not a single mother. So I have help, but I know how it feels to be a single mother and not be able to get the help, because at one point, Rowan County didn't have the funds for daycare when I first moved here. So I think, that's something to look at.
Thank you.
Good for you. We're really proud of you. Congratulations on first generation. Commissioner Pierce, did your folks go to college?
No.
Mine didn't. Yours? They did? Well. Okay. Well, that's better. How about you, Mike? Did your folks
My
go to
dad
college?
did,
Yeah. So, most of us here are first generation as well. And so the world is your oyster. Good luck to you. Are you going to be an agent here in Rowan County?
No, I'll be in Cornelius.
Come on now.
We're working on it.
Okay.
But I do want to add, my father went to prison when I was younger, and he got out. And my grandfather, they didn't go to college either. But my grandfather started a business, doing concrete. And so my father wouldn't have to go back to that lifestyle. He passed that business down to my father.
Wow.
And my father has thus been successful and hasn't went back to the streets.
That's really good. All right, now I'm not going to scold you, but I'm going to be honest with you. Now, where do you live? Do you live in Rowan County now?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So the purpose of these things, right, is we invest in Rowan County citizens to have opportunity in Rowan County. So I'm not scolding you. I'm just saying when we invest, we want you staying here. So we'd love to have you.
And I love it here. That's why I moved back.
All right, we want to have you here and have your own Keller Williams agency and hiring people and thriving and creating wealth and generational wealth. So do what you can do to help enrich Rowan County. Cornelius has got all they need. We need help here. So, but God bless you and best of luck to you. And if we can ever help you, please let us know.
Thank you so much.
All right, good for you.
Thank you.
I had a question.
Please spread the word to any of your friends that your circumstances are only temporary. You can make your life what you want it to be, and you're a prime example of that. And that's the word that we were trying to get out with this Better Jobs for Better Lives, that whoever you are, your circumstances are just temporary. So thank you for being here today. We appreciate it.
Mike?
So in your previous employments, what kind of things did you do before? I know, I guess, working in a factory, going to a real estate's is different. Is your previous employments similar to working in a factory, or did you have?
No, it was my first time working in a factory. I went from nursing to working for Daimler.
Oh.
I graduated Salisbury High School with my CNA 1.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So you had an immediate avenue to a job.
And I worked at Daimler as an electrician and offline.
Wow. They train you for
They
that?
do.
That's good.
We need more girls in those technical.
Well, good. Well, good luck to you. Anything else from you all?
Just wanted to point out that coming up in 2020, Craig Lamb is working on a logistics training that will be connected with Chewy and our other distribution employers in the area. And right now, from the job seekers and from the unemployed, underemployed that we're working with, Chewy is, of course, a very popular conversation whenever individuals are coming in to learn more about what's going on there. So Craig has some exciting things that he's lined up that he'll be excited to tell you more about in the future, as well as you were saying, we will have a lot of intel to be able to share through Connected, through Better Jobs, with the work that we have done with the justice involved in Rowan County. And as providers, we have learned a tremendous amount of information on what we can actually do to assist the individuals. We learned about problems that, and Tashina, this lady right here has trailblazed in areas and things that we've learned and what we have to do to knock down to have services for individuals. And your college hired representatives to be recruiters that are actually recognized trusted advisors within the community that we're trying to work with. We hired individuals that specifically could speak to the experience of being incarcerated, that could talk about being justice involved, and that have actually gone through that path before. And that resonates with that population, and it connects with them in a way that it's very challenging to do. But they've been able to do that, and to be able to say that they came from a program, their positions came from a program that not only came from the governor's office, but came from our county commissioners that said, go get them, help them, let's see what we can do. And we're learning a lot. And I will look forward, the college will look forward in partnering with future initiatives that you have as well to share the information we have and help continue that effort.
I'm glad you guys have learned that. Commissioner Green and I, well, the whole commission have had that conversation, and we have been disappointed that we've not been successful in that, but it's only because we're not that bright. Honestly, so you all have taken this and said, we need the right message and the right messengers, and you're very successful with that, and hats off to you for doing that, because who's going to listen to us? You know,
I've been with you. I've been with you in situations where we've tried very hard, and we've been in the community, and I know that it's well received. Like, they understand that in many cases the message is received, but the connecting piece and understanding, that's what we're trying to trailblaze and make some changes on there too. So
we get that, and we're good for that, and that's why we don't do it all. We need good partners. And so in this discussion about second chance training, it's not up to me to bring a big program, because you guys have the experience. I'm glad we'll be working with you with that. Craig told me this morning that Piedmont Correctional, currently they have GED, auto body, masonry, custodial. There's a grant for trucking and construction industry that's now going on in there. So as we talk about second chance training, trying to match up folks that have a need when they come out with the demand that we have, every day we have conversations with folks who have needs in the trades. Nationally, there are 7 million unfilled skilled worker positions that are out there. And so I've often said that those counties that can figure out this piece of developing workforce, which includes the justice issue, the world is their oyster. And so this is a holistic approach to healing our economy, and it's got to involve those folks as well from a moral perspective and also from an economic perspective. So,
Harry, I got two more quick questions. Are you working with Henderson Independent High School at all?
Right, our team, the R3 team, is not. Our student life back with on campus, I'm sure that they are connected with Henderson, yes.
Yeah, because that's another group that are really, all of them are justice involved. So that would be another good connection. And then the other question I have is, the infamous Box 7 on job applications. Are we seeing employers being willing to hire people that have been incarcerated? The Box 7 thing. I know there's a movement to get rid of Box 7. And I know that there is at least one large business here that ignores that, but a lot of times the computer programs just kick it out because they check it.
I'd like to actually ask Tashina to kind of speak to that, because she is working with the most employers right now through our trucking and transportation to.
Are trying to increase the number of second chance employers. So that is a part of the whole conversation. We recently had what was the title of the employer event that we had?
Being a first-rate employer through second chance hiring.
Right. And so that was set up to invite employers there to speak to them about these different things and just bring it to their attention. So that is something that we're actively working on.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. I have another one coming up in another couple of months, so it's something that's ongoing.
all right, well, thank you for your time. Appreciate y'all being here, and keep us involved. Okay.
Look forward to more in 2020.
Thanks.
If you would wait just a minute, we have a process we're going to do right here that may make Craig's ulcer go away.
In 10 seconds, I do want to just give kudos to Commissioner Green. This Better Jobs for Better Lives was his brainchild, and so thank you for having the vision to do this, okay?
Well, this is something that's done by the whole county commission. This commission, everybody has seen what a few dollars can do, and can connect folks to this. And unfortunately, I have to admit every time somebody pats me on the back that it really was Mike Caskey's idea in the beginning. So I'm not going to take credit for the whole thing here, or any part of it other than the part that I vote on. But I'd like to thank the commission for what they have done over the years with this.
Mike?
I'm just curious, I know in Kannapolis I've seen the R3 there at the building beside the Hardee's on Loop Road. Is that your office? Or are you still there, or have you moved, or what was that?
Started. When the R3 Center started in 2007, we were in a renovated Winn-Dixie that was right near the Hardee's on Loop Road. Thank you so much. I love hearing that you knew where it was. We were connected with the North Carolina Research Campus, and Mr. Murdoch and the college helped relocate us to the Village in the old Swanee Theater, which, as y'all know, through the construction and things that have happened there, in 2015, our storefront for the center we closed that storefront. And what happened is the R3 services team came back within our campuses. And through this program and this initiative, we grew in strength. And so now we are in multiple locations. Actually, our main focus is in Rowan County. We do have crews that are in 2 locations still in Cabarrus, one on the research campus, on our college's campus. But part of what we've learned through the Better Jobs, Better Lives initiative is that we're in demand, and we've learned that we have to meet individuals where we are. We heard about Freightliner. We work with a large portion of individuals that are faced with generational poverty or other issues, and they're not coming into our community agencies or on our campus, intimidation and many other things, and we are in demand, and we go to where they are through this initiative throughout the county. So we get a collection. Our faith-based organizations are helping us out with that. Cornerstone actually in 2019 did a lot to help orchestrate and bring people in through their congregation to get connected with Better Jobs as well. So we did have a storefront, but now, in particular, 2017, thanks to this program, we are on the road. We don't have a bus. I'm not asking Craig for a bus, even though she's got all the transportation licensures here, but we're on demand. They call us, and we go to where they are right now. But that R3 brand did have a storefront at one time.
Thanks.
Well, thank you. When you leave, will you grab my card and can you send us your PowerPoint? Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, is this the point that I need to take care of an error that we made?
Yep, go ahead.
To the other commissioners, you have received a budget amendment that Leslie has sent before you here. And we have, back at when we were doing the budget, we talked about Better Jobs Program. And I thought that we had put the money in the budget. It seems like that it didn't get there. But what this is that we didn't fund our Better Jobs Program when we did our budget. And I think that we, and I say that collectively, that we thought that we were doing it. I think I talked with most of you about that. And so at this point in time, I'd like for us to look at this and to put this money, this $100,000, into the budget. We did budget Rowan Cabarrus, and Aaron can tell me what it was, maybe $300,000 or something. But that it was to our job is to provide funding to keep up their facilities for the buildings that we own over there and that we paid for. So. And this has to be in a separate line item for them to use money. They can't use money out of the facilities to work on these programs. So that's what this is.
So we're in January. Is that 100,000 going to be for July of 19 through, June 30th of 20?
Yes, they've been spending money.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
they have.
Right, gotcha.
Used other monies.
Okay.
And they had to, here at the end of the year, I guess they were having to actually account for where all the money was coming from.
You want to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we send this this budget amendment to fund this program.
All right. We have motions or second?
Commissioner Green, I would like to amend your motion and put that in next year's budget, this be a line item from this point on, so that it doesn't get left out of the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. I certainly will second that.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Why don't we go ahead and take our break? I know we're early. We'll do that and move along.
Never too early for a break.
All right, so we're back. Next on our agenda is to hear an update on economic development from our president of our EDC. Rod, always good to see you.
Good to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yes,
Happy New Year to you all.
Welcome.
We have put together a brief update of our activities for 2019 and looking a little ahead to 2020 on a few of the items as well. I think it's safe to say that we feel that 2019 was one of our best years ever. These are the new and expanded businesses that were announced last year. Henkel, Innospec, Team Automotive, Home Goods, and we don't have on there because we didn't work with them, of course, is the Burlington retail operation too that's going now at the Summit Shopping Center. Quite a few jobs there. Chewy with $1,255 million investment all the way down to 19 jobs and $400,000 investment from Team Automotive. So you could see there were we got a couple of new businesses there, but 3 of them are existing businesses, which to us kind of points to our need to continue to be very proactive with our existing businesses. We've, of course, launched early last year, the Expand ROAM program, which is targeted towards our existing businesses. It's a proactive initiative to get out in front of at least 50 of our major employers in the traded sectors in Rowan County, and we've had that thing is going by itself, I think. And then we have the Rowan County Manufacturing Network, which they meet quarterly, and this has been an opportunity for us to get manufacturers together. They have not had a forum for them to get together to talk about some of the common issues that they're facing as manufacturers, particularly in the area of getting workforce. We have uncovered some opportunities for some manufacturers that weren't aware of each other to do business with each other, so we're helping to strengthen the local supply chain as well. It's been difficult for us to get these folks together because, number one, they're very busy. Number 2, it's hard to get them out of their plant because it seems like there's always something going on inside that they have to address. But we're getting better traction. We just had a little holiday reception back in December, and we were really pleased that we had about 8 or 9 of our manufacturers show up for that, and we got to introduce them to each other. Several of them did not know each other there either, and so the more that we can kind of develop that network amongst our manufacturers, we think the stronger we can be in utilizing them to help us with not only our expansion efforts, but with our attraction efforts as well. Currently, this is what we have in the hopper. These are our 5 hottest projects. These are the ones that I mentioned last night that we expect that could close within the first quarter of 2020. Project BERT is a $500 million investment, a large capital investment, not a lot of jobs, but would mean a lot of tax revenue to the county. Project Bay is a new company that we have come before you with a request for a tax incentive. We're still working that. That's 161 new jobs that would be down in the China Grove Landis area. Project Empire is an existing industry expansion. They would add 34 jobs initially with potentially more to come. And then Project Snowy is a new company out of New Jersey, which is a distribution facility and a remanufacturing facility for the items that they distribute. We're hoping that we could announce that one very soon too. And Project Tiger is the spec building project where we're working with China Grove down at Exit 68 area for a new industrial development there.
Is there an estimate of what they're talking about?
In terms of?
Dollar value.
I don't know what the total dollar value, do you remember? I know that when they laid it out, it was about 1.5 million to 2 million square feet of industrial space. So it's significant. So we're trying right now to bring all the different parties together. There's 3 or 4 different landowners there at that site. We're trying to get them together to see if we can't come up with a deal for the developer so that they can go forward with that. Our marketing activities, we do a lot of work. As you know, we are a partner with the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance. We contribute a significant amount, as do each of the counties in the Charlotte region, to support marketing initiatives. So we leverage that as much as we possibly can. We do a lot of joint marketing at shows. We go and do we visit site selection consultants across the country together. Typically, it's usually about that many people, 4 of us. Fortunately for us, we're one of the only counties, along with Jamie Gilbert, that guy in the front from Lancaster County, South Carolina, who take advantage of the joint marketing opportunities that the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance makes available to its members. They've been very valuable. That was Select USA. That picture, that's a conference that's run by the U.S. government for companies that are interested in locating in the U.S. And so last year we had about 40 different appointments with different companies from overseas who had an interest in coming to the U.S. And I think we had about 10 or 12 of them ended up being projects for the Charlotte region. So that's been a very fruitful show for us. And then the product development activities are really important, because if we don't have the product, we can't bring the people here. So we've been working recently with land. It's on the Wallace site. It's a 25-acre parcel. We just got notification from Electricities a couple of weeks ago that they will be accepting us into their site certification program. It's very similar to the Duke program that we've used with other sites across the county. There's also a building on that site owned by Mike Wallace, and we're told that that's under contract, but we haven't been told who it is yet. So we don't know what the potential use for that building might be, but there is also a 25-acre site that we'll be marketing for them as well. We're excited about the Rusher site in East Spencer. It's an 80-acre parcel. I think we're down to getting the geotech study, which will be done in the spring of this year. We think that that has a lot of potential as it sits across the highway from Aldi Distribution. It's one exit below the new Chewy facility, and it's about 5 miles from the new Eggers plant in Davidson County, which is going to employ about 700 people once they get that up and running. So I think that site will be well positioned for a lot of activity based upon things that are happening in the general vicinity there. And then the other things that we're working on is the High Bridge development. That's exit 65. Craig probably knows more about this than anybody, but I understand that they closed on the property this week or last week? 15. Okay, so that's done. And the developer now owns it, and hopefully they'll be moving forward with it. I think that Irene Sachs down at Kannapolis Economic Development told us that they were going to be reviewing a development plan or development proposal this month or next, and so we're looking forward to being able to join them for that to see what the time frame is on this project. And then we've talked a little bit about the developer interest at exit 68. And that would be where the 2 million square feet would be. We have developer interest in the Platinum site. As you know, that's been a site that's been available but owned by a party that's outside of the area and hasn't shown a lot of interest in marketing it in the past. The developer that has interest in this is familiar with our market, has a lot of confidence in our market, and would like to acquire that site so that they can do some things with it. And it's our understanding, last we heard, that they are moving forward with acquiring that property, and that could happen as early as next month. And then we have some new national brokers representing the Brown site out towards Cleveland. I think that's a positive development. I think that they bring a lot more bandwidth to the ability to market that property than the people that they had representing them in the past. Same thing with the Long Ferry Road site. We have formally referred to that as the Carlton site, but we've been asked by the new brokers that they're going to rebrand, reposition it as the Long Ferry Road site. So we'll be referring to it as that in the future. And then the Granite Quarry spec building, we were just informed this morning that there is a contract on that building, and hopefully we'll be able to announce that a business will be locating in that with expansion very shortly. And of course, you were all there when we opened up I-85, and that's going to be a huge help to us. It does reduce the traffic time, and there have been several occasions where we've had people that came from the airport in Charlotte and went through that construction and said, man, it seems like a long time getting here. And now that's out of the way. It's going to reduce the traffic time by about 25%, but those barrels that were up for a long time, narrowing us down to a couple of lanes really didn't help the perception of our proximity to Charlotte very much. And so we're very pleased that we're moving forward with that and looking forward to further developments. Workforce development, I know you've talked about that a little bit already. All of us are involved with this Rowan County Education Collaborative, trying to answer the question, how can Rowan County create an agile talent framework that promotes prosperity for business and residents? You can see all the interested parties down there that get together every 2 weeks. Our next meeting is on the 15th, next Wednesday, to move forward, and we're seeing a lot of progress. These are kind of the 5 areas that we're working on: educational attainment and work-based learning, local jobs for graduates, and becoming an education community. I like to think of that as becoming a learning community, but these are things that we're really focused on, because workforce development is the #1 issue in economic development for us right now. It's the first question we get is, do you have people, and do they have the right skills, and how can you prove that to us? So the more programs that we have in place to help us develop this workforce capacity, the better we'll be in terms of being competitive with other locations. And you know, it's not a Rowan County issue. We all know it's a national issue, and so the more proactive we can be in this area, the better off we'll be in terms of our competitiveness. We're also still doing our work in Rowan Wednesdays, highlighting different job opportunities that are available with companies here in Rowan County. We'll be working with Miller Davis to create a talent attraction guide that will help companies to, when they're recruiting folks to come to work in Rowan County, we're working to become a work-ready community with the ACT organization that has been traditionally known for the college testing. We're about 94 or 96% towards our goal of reaching that certification. There's about 100 tests that we have to put people through that are in the transitioning worker category for us to meet that final objective, and we expect that we'll do that pretty soon. And then we're going to continue our Manufacturing Day activities in October to highlight the many opportunities and careers that are available within the manufacturing industry. You know, we're about double the manufacturing employment here in Rowan County as, say, a Cabarrus County. And so it's a big part of our workforce and something that we really want to pay attention to. We're continuing our work with the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance. As I already discussed, we're really active with the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, talking to them about the opportunities that exist here. I think that our #1 source of leads is probably the Alliance. Probably the second one is EDP&C, wouldn't you say, Scott? And then probably third would be people that are contacting us directly, or the people that we're reaching out to locally. And then also through the North Carolina Economic Developers Association. And the Central Line of Workforce, which I know you are involved with as well, also has some activities that could be very helpful to us, but we really haven't leveraged what resources they could make available to us. So I'm going to give a particular emphasis on trying to get closer to that group and what they have to do. You know, they came through with, wasn't it Chewy where they came through with a pretty big kind of incentive offer in terms of training dollars, and it really kind of helped us a lot in getting the attention of Chewy in terms of what would be available to us and the whole incentive package that we put together.
And that was which group?
This is a Central Line of Workforce Development Board. I think you have representation. Somebody on there? I think. I know there's 2 or 3 people. Mike Beaver is on that from here. I attend, and then we have a couple of other Rowan folks that go too. But like I said, I haven't really gotten as close to the staff as we need to understand all
Hey,
the
Rod, I'm glad to hear that about Charlotte Regional Business Alliance. I know Rowan County has a history in that, and would certainly like to thank the commissioners for getting us back into that. That's proven to be a big deal. Don't need to spend a lot of time talking about that, but I'm glad to hear that this is vital to us being part of this region.
It is. Yeah, it is absolutely. And we're going to get closer to that too. I was named one of the officers of their Economic Development Advisory Council, which puts me in closer contact with all of their activities on a little more intimate basis than I have been able to as a member of that group in the past. So I think we'll be able to do even more there. And they're very open under the new leadership to assisting us in any way possible. They had a person at the Chamber's dinner last night, so they want to get out into the communities and have a stronger presence in each of the counties that they represent, and we're going to help them do that. And then the brand identity and storytelling is, we're working with that. We're working with Your Rowan, the initiative that you funded, with dollars that flow through our organization then onto the provider of those activities. They gave me a little campaign update since we launched this in March of last year. I can't read that from here, but I know it's about 30,000 people have visited the website in that 10 months that they have taken a look at. So that's about 3,000 people that are coming per month to the Your Rowan website to take a look at things. They're spending a good amount of time on there, and that little pie chart, again, I can't read the numbers, but I know the blue part is new visitors, and I know the green part is returning visitors. And so we're having a lot of new people coming to the website to learn about Rowan County. And, one of the things that this was formed for was to overcome some of the negative images that had been out there in the past and some of the negative activities where we had people out there that were actually adversarial towards Rowan County and looking to make us look bad at every possibility. And then we had outdated information on there. And then I know that one of the examples that was given was High Rock Lake. When you went to the High Rock Lake and you did a Google search of High Rock, you found all kinds of old information and old pictures that weren't accurate. Well, I went there this morning and did High Rock Lake Google search and looked, and there weren't any negative images. There was none of the negative stories. There was just a lot of really positive things there. So we've been able through this campaign and through the content development related to this campaign to push some of those negative and old and outdated stories off the website search pages and having a more current picture, a more current view of not only what High Rock Lake looks like, but what Rowan County as a whole looks like. So I think that's been very positive. They've had 114 different blogs that have been written. They have 3,400 followers on Facebook. You could see the activity on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube as well. I thought they did a really good job with the video that was shown last night at the Chamber dinner. I don't know if all of you have seen that yet, but if not, I know it's now available, I think, on the Your Rowan website or on their Facebook page. And then back what started all this was a study that was done by Chandler Thinks. It was funded by the Tourism Development Authority. And we decided about 2 or 3 months ago that we would like to revisit, have them come back and survey people again using the same survey instrument to be able to determine whether or not we've made progress between that time period 3 or 4 years ago and all this activity that's been going on since then. So we actually had more people respond to the survey this time than we did the first time, and we thought we had a good response then. So we're very pleased about that, and we're looking forward to having the results of that. They're being compiled now. We expect that they'll be ready sometime in early February, and we certainly want to come back and share that information with you as soon as we get it.
Hey, Rod, let me just say to the commissioners, I invited Your Rowan to come to report to us. And because of that fact that they're compiling results from this most recent survey, everyone decided let's hold off to do a big report to the commissioners after we see kind of before and after results.
Yeah.
And so, the purpose of Your Rowan, which you've mentioned, is to try to turn our opinions internally, and then once we feel like we got a handle on that, begin to advertise out outwardly, and so
Right.
this will tell us kind of how we're doing from an inward perspective, and so we look forward to hearing that.
I got to think it's going to be positive,
Yeah,
but we'll
in the
see.
next- yeah, in the
I mean,
next few
I see it. Okay. And then the thing I want to talk to you about this morning, too, is this Forward Rowan initiative that we are starting this year. This is a multi-year, a 5-year initiative that we are launching to increase prosperity, reduce poverty, and improve quality of life. It's a new approach towards economic development. We are going to be inviting the private sector to become a partner in this economic development effort. Up until this point in Rowan County, this effort has been funded entirely by your organization and other municipalities across the county. We think that there is benefit to the private sector to participate in this, then they will see a real return on investment from their participation in this. And so we are going to be approaching them over the next several months to invite them to be part of this economic growth effort here in Rowan County. The simplest way I could say it is, the old maxim that, rising tide lifts all boats, and we need to be able to make that case to them and encourage their participation. We did do a feasibility study, and I've got some select results from that for you. First, we asked them, how would you describe Rowan County's economy? 57% of them said it was good. 37% said fair. We had 3% that said excellent, and 3% that said poor. So, people are feeling kind of confident, but, not, things are going good, but could be better. And then we asked them if they felt like community leaders were on the right track in terms of economic development. And overwhelmingly, 86% said that we had kind of turned the tide and we're on the right track. And that had to do with a lot of different things, including the change in leadership here at the County Commission, along with a more aggressive and proactive economic development program. We asked them to evaluate us. We got a 7.7 on our effectiveness overall. Our EDC board got an 8, and that's kind of surprising because not a lot of people know who our board members are. And then the ED staff, and we probably did well because we're probably the most visible in that group. So 8.4 on that. We'll be shooting for 10s in the future. And then these are some of the accomplishments that people were saying about the EDC itself. The Chewy announcement, obviously, our Expand Rowan program, particularly our stronger emphasis on working with existing industries and not just working to attract new businesses here. The government relations, which kind of goes back to you, the commission, and your interaction and your openness and friendliness to businesses and bringing new businesses here and helping existing ones to expand. The marketing and branding that we've done, our staff, the product development pieces, the workforce initiatives, and then some communication initiatives that we launched, including our newsletter and the annual meeting last year where we brought Ron Starner in to talk. When we put a plan in front of them, it included 5 strategic areas. We asked them if they saw value in this, and we were really surprised that that number was that high, way above 90% in terms of their support for this plan. So that bodes well for us to be able to encourage the private sector to participate. I said that we had tested 5 different strategies. There was one that we kind of people didn't understand. There wasn't a strong support for it, so we kind of took that one out, and we have interspersed its most important elements of it across the remaining 4 strategic objectives. And those are, our first strategy is obviously targeted economic growth. We're looking for growing our existing businesses. We're looking to continue to attract new firms, and then we want to maintain our competitive locational advantages, all the things that we've been working on, but we want to really be able to ramp this up to a higher level. The second piece I've already mentioned is the most important piece, probably to the success of the first strategic goal, but we've got to work to align these workforce and education systems. We've got to get more talent to stay in our area. We've got to get more people to move to our area for the job opportunities that are here. And so we'll be working to influence that area in a stronger way. The brand identity and storytelling kind of goes back to the Your Rowan. We've got to be able to tell our story, why we're a competitive place for business, why we're a good place to live. We have to be very proactive in that area as well. We've been communicating, our audience is to site selection consultants and other people like corporate real estate executives who make the decisions about where companies locate. We have the TDA has a marketing initiative as well. They have a different audience. They're looking for people to come, more of the consumer audience, to come and visit our county. There's a connection there because a lot of folks who are in businesses decide to locate to an area because they had visited there previously and had some knowledge of it. So what I would like to see, and Craig, I'll be working with you and Stephen and others to see if we can't get the TDA and the EDC together to more closely align our marketing efforts so that we're pushing out similar messages and kind of reinforcing the same messages and making sure that we're working together on this, because I think that we can much better leverage our dollars if we're working together. And they've got a great team at the TDA that can do a lot of things in marketing that we can't do. So I'd like to be able to leverage some of their expertise, and if I can purchase some of that, Craig, by paying for a portion of a person's salary or whatever, we'd love to do that too. Any way that we can partner in that effort, I think will pay off for all of us. And then just our ability internally to deliver our services as quickly, efficiently, and professionally as we can, getting us the tools, getting us the training, getting us all the things that we need. People are not waiting a week to get information anymore. They want it right now. We have to be able to provide metrics to people like you to talk about our success and what we're doing. So we're putting in tools that the private sector uses, like Salesforce and other things that will help us to better report, better analyze, find out where we're being successful, where we're not being successful. 3 years ago, I could not have told you that most of our leads were coming from the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance, and our second source was the EDP&C, because we weren't tracking that information. Now we are. Now we can evaluate and see if those leads, now that we know that we're coming from, how can we do a better job of turning the leads we are getting into projects? And where are we missing the boat? And some of the things that we've learned are a lot of the leads that we get, we just don't qualify for. So they come in and they've got some unique requirement that we don't have, like a 40-foot ceiling on an existing building. Well, we don't have that. So we have to pass on that opportunity. But again, we weren't able to really track that kind of information before. So all of this is making us smarter, better, allowing us to do our job more efficiently and at a higher level. And so
Hey, Rod, let me interject that I remember through the Chewy exercise when we worked really directly with the developer, mostly, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
And as we were getting down to the end where we were just competing head to head and blow for blow, they mentioned to us that one thing that they were real encouraged by Rowan County by is the fact that our response time. And so you guys would call us, you'd call me, I'd call commissioners, we'd make decisions in hours, where other communities, they were making decisions in days and weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's important because the developer is not the end user. He's the guy that's trying to convince Chewy to build a building here.
Mm-hmm.
And because of a lot of stuff, including your response, EDC commissioners, these folks want to do more projects in Rowan County, and that's really important. So this high performance service is not just a slide to fill a PowerPoint. This is really, really critical. And
Key.
It's what kept us in the game and helped us win.
Yep. Thank you. I agree. And then what we're hoping to get out of this, our outcomes that we're expecting from this 5-year initiative is 2,500 new jobs by 2024. We had set a goal of the jobs paying wages exceeding $33,000. That is, that's higher than our median income right now. That is considered, I guess, the living wage for Rowan County for 2 adults with a child or 2 children. I can't remember which one it is, but $33,000 is kind of the minimum that we're looking for. And actually, we've been tracking better than that in recent months. The jobs that we've been creating have been averaging about $40,000 a year. So $33,000 a year should be doable, but we think we can even exceed that. And then $350 million in new capital investment by 2024. That was a goal that everybody agreed would be a good one. We did, after we did the feasibility study, we did increase the number of new jobs. I think because people heard 1,200 jobs from Chewy, they thought our original total was too low. We should be doing 1,200 jobs every year, right? But if you go back and you look at our history, we've been doing 350 to roughly 500 jobs a year when you take Chewy out. So this is a little bit of a stretch goal for us, and it's where we want to be. So, and then you could see on the other side, those 2,500 jobs will create another 1,265 secondary jobs and generate a little over almost $72 million in annual consumer expenditures in our community. And that's important because the more consumer expenditures we make available through the traded sector jobs, the more opportunities we'll have for retail, and then we won't have the retail leakage that we've talked about in the past with people going outside the county to buy their consumer goods and services. And that's evident with Burlington, with Home Goods coming to our area. Retail is all about the number of rooftops and income levels, and if they didn't see that we were a growing community and had more people moving here with better incomes, they would not have decided to come here. And so as we see that increase, we'll see more retail will follow as well. So,
Hey, Rod, can I interject? And I'm sorry.
That's all I got.
But go back to that last page. I know y'all don't want to hear me talk, and no comments on that. But this secure new jobs paying wages exceeding 33,000. If you wonder what the Education Collaborative has to do with any of this, that is really it. At our current education level, at how we're educating folks, I don't know how else to put it, we kind of are imposing a ceiling on ourselves of how high we can rise from a wages standpoint as a whole community. And the point of the Education Collaborative is to address that $33,000 issue and say, how do we move that ceiling up to 50,000?
Right.
We don't do it without the issue of not only better education. It's not just about doing much better the things that we're supposed to be already doing. It is about doing additional things that we've never done. It's about challenging the school system, Ron Cabarrus, and our two four-year colleges to raising the bar so we can raise the ceiling. So this is why this collaborative discussion is such a big deal.
Yes, and it's why we're all kind of working together, because that's sort of the end goal. If we can increase the incomes of people, we increase prosperity, and that benefits everybody.
Rod, I agree with that 100%, but I also want to point out that 2,500 new jobs allows an additional 2,500 new jobs, existing jobs, and people might be, out of those 2,500 jobs, if you're working as an electrician or you're working as a plumber, whatever, you may be already making more than $33,000 a year. And we're looking at more than doubling that when we do create these jobs. Then we've got 2,500 jobs at whatever their current pay is, or that job skill. They might be starting more than there. And then secondary jobs, you've got as another 1,300 basically. So 2,500 jobs, whether they're manufacturing or whether they're distribution, whatever they are, is just the initial when we create those jobs. We have twice as many other jobs that are being affected in the community. So it's, I just hope that we don't gloss over these other things too quickly, because they are just as important as the jobs that are coming to us new.
Yeah, I agree.
Can you spend just a few minutes? I know you talked about expand Rowan, but could you spend a few minutes just talking about why that's important, what the activities are what activities are involved in that, and how it's kind of really important, and that we had really neglected that.
We had.
And what this
Yeah,
means.
so, you know, as they say, it's easier to keep a customer than to gain a new one. And we had a lot of customers here called businesses that were located in Rowan County that we hadn't been reaching out to. We just didn't have a kind of a customer care program in place for them. And so we started, when I came to reach out to them, mostly because I wanted to understand their businesses and wanted to understand how we could affect their growth and kind of what they were seeing for their business going and how we could support that. But what we were finding was that couldn't get an appointment because people didn't know who we were and what we did. EDC, who's that? They just didn't know us. And so we had to work very hard. Kendall Henderson on our staff, who was really hired to do outside sales to attract more companies to come to Rowan County, I repositioned her to make her job primarily responsible for working with our existing businesses. And so she spent a lot of time on the phone. She was running into the same sort of thing. Who is this? What do you have to offer us? And so we've been able to get out there. We started that. At the same time, we did the manufacturing network. We needed to be able to demonstrate to them that we offered value, that we weren't just coming out to waste their time with a visit to have a chat, but that we really wanted to be able to understand their business so that we could bring available resources to them. Over the course of time, our success in getting those appointments has improved. It's still difficult because of their lack of what it seems to be a lot of times availability to meet with us during the day because of the demands of their business. But we are received well now. We don't get the question, who are you? They know us because we've been supporting the Expand Rowan program with some other communications initiatives. So if we're not on their door or in their office, you know, we're hitting them with the email box with different things that we're doing. We're trying to reach them through social media, whatever. And so now what has happened, and in fact it happened twice this week and last week, where we had companies call us and say, we have an expansion opportunity, we want you to help us. That didn't happen before because people didn't know who we were. And now we've developed that kind of relationship. They know that we bring value to their business, we can bring value to their business, and so they're reaching out to us as a resource. I think that, you know, the company that is going into the granite quarry facility, I think we had a good chance of losing them, but we had developed a relationship with their, well, it's not a plant manager, but their top operations person there. We had developed a relationship with them where we were able to have some really open and honest conversations about what their needs were and what they were looking for, and what we weren't at that time able to provide to them. And by learning about these things, then we can address them as well. And I think that that's been a source of much of our workforce development activity too, is because we weren't getting the voice of the end user, the customer, the business person who is going to eventually hire these people in what they needed. And now that we're having those conversations with them, we can communicate to the educational organizations about what those are, because they didn't have a good relationship with the businesses either. So we like to be able to serve as that conduit. So It's been very, very positive. We still have a long way to go, I think, to develop the type of relationships that we want to have with them, to get them engaged in what we're trying to do here as a community, and to recognize the value that they bring to us, and how much we really appreciate all that they do for us. And that's a message we continue to try to communicate to them when we're going out to visit with them. So
I know that Kendall has uncovered a lot of folks where just being there and being in conversation, they say, oh, by the way, we're considering expansion.
Yeah.
So that's been a byproduct. I want to read to you. This is from Breck Dorton this morning. Breck says, please feel free to announce this at the retreat. This local company has been searching for buildings in Cabarrus County for 2 years, and we would have certainly lost them if this spec building had not been constructed. They will be expanding their square footage by a large amount and expanding the number of employees. He says this is the exact reason we need available Class A industrial buildings in Rowan County, because of reasons like this. So, you know, when we were talking about developing that, we never knew what would come in,
right.
You know, but in this case, it won't be someone coming from outside, but we would have lost this company and gone backwards if it had not been for this.
And just to, I guess, demonstrate another connection there was, you know, I talked about our marketing initiatives, and one of these trips I went to, I think I was in Chicago, but I ran into their corporate real estate executive for this company that will be moving into that building, and had a conversation with them about their needs. And had I not had that relationship with this local person, I wouldn't have, number one, known about their interest in expanding, but number two, I wouldn't have known that that was the person that I needed to talk to. And so that all kind of came together afterwards. We had a conversation with him there, it came back local, and then it kind of came full circle back to us to say, okay, let's have another conversation with the EDC about opportunities that are available in Rowan County. They didn't know about, originally, they didn't know about spec building. And you'd think they would. I mean, we talk about it a lot. It's out there in the marketplace, but they weren't aware of it. So we need to make them aware of these opportunities exist. So yeah, we just got to be in front of them as often as we can.
All right, anything else for Rod?
Yeah, Rod, could you go back and just talk a little bit about, I think the slide was like.
Which
towards
one?
The slide was towards the beginning about prosperity.
This one?
Yep. Could you speak a little bit about how EDC is going to help with these 3 areas? I know jobs, absolutely.
Right.
Another thing that's still an issue, especially with the amount of poverty that we have in our county, is transportation.
Correct.
And I think about the Chewy site.
Yes.
How are folks going to be able to get out there? And then, what was the other thing? Oh, have you had any conversation at all about amenities with the employers that are here and that are considering coming? Because I know that that is a good, one of the things that people do think about when they come.
Yeah, we do. So on the first piece, obviously the jobs, we want to bring jobs that pay higher incomes, but at the same time, we need jobs for people that have not yet entered the career stream yet and may need to enter at a lower rung of the ladder so that they can get a foothold and then work their way up the ladder. And so some of these opportunities that we will be bringing here will provide that. Others that we will be looking at may require a higher level of skill, and they may be coming from existing employers, they may be coming from people who are trained at RCC, or they may be coming from outside of our area. The second piece on the transportation is we are working currently with the city of Salisbury to talk about putting a route that will go out to the Chewy facility. We just recently came across a company. What's the road out there where Fresh House is? Over by Peeler and. Yeah, so you guys know where Fresh House is in Trelleborg and that. We met with a company out there. It was actually Fresh House, and they said that they had a problem getting people because the transportation, it ran in the morning. The buses ran in the morning so people could get to work, but by the time their shift ended, that bus route didn't have an afternoon trip, so they couldn't get home. So they wanted us to see if we could work about getting that transportation out there. So yeah, transportation is a big issue. Childcare is another big issue that is keeping people from working. We are trying to develop as many relationships with people that are in that space and know it better than I can ever know it, so that we can partner with them to see what types of solutions that we can come up with to assist that. And I talked about that at our annual meeting, about being collaborative and getting everybody together to work on this, because it's not a singular issue, but they're all interrelated with each other. And if we are going to grow this economy, then we have to address some of these other issues as well. We're not equipped at the EDC to do it, but we're equipped to be conveners and collaborators to help make that happen. So we would like to do that. In terms of amenities, I think those are all kind of driven by the marketplace. I think that everybody is offering more amenities now. I think that as we get more businesses coming in here, exerting pressure on our existing businesses to keep their employees, that more amenities will be put in place. I mean, if you take a look at, one of the things that I think that we've overlooked, that we've talked about, is this Eggers plant. They're a company that's coming out of Norway, Finland, Austria, not sure exactly which one, but they make compressed board products. They're very, they rely very heavily on rail transportation, and so they put their facility at the Linwood Yard up just over. It's the first exit after you leave Rowan County. This plant is actually closer to Salisbury than the Daimler plant is in Cleveland, but yet we haven't celebrated it, we haven't looked at it, we haven't considered what its impact would be on us. But because of where they're coming from, they have a pretty rich program of benefits and pay. And they're looking to hire, I think, 700 initially, going up to maybe 1,200 when they're up to full speed. So we thought that Chewy is going to force some employers to raise their hourly pay, but Eggers is going to put pressure on people too. So, and everybody, one of the companies we met with said, we know they're coming, we're prepared for them, we're putting things in place, and that includes some different amenities, that sort of thing. So,
I'm very glad that we participate in the Centralina, workforce development. And they actually had a conference, a one-day conference on economic development and health, and how counties and municipalities can build in amenities because of being able to, number one, draw people there, but number two is to encourage that exercise portion of our lives. And because we just, when you got absences and because of health issues, and we know we have a lot of that, it just is a big drag on the company, and also may eventually have to end the job because they're just not there or they're sick.
Right, yeah, right. Well, that was one of the things that were maybe not surprising, but when AMREP built their new facility, went on the tour, they have a full gym there with a locker room, and they're trying to encourage employee health and wellness by having the facilities convenient to their employees and giving them the time during their shift to actually do that, or just before or just after their shift.
Where you go in the morning, isn't it?
That's where I need to be going in the morning, yeah.
Well, that's really interesting that you bring that up. I actually have a sister who's a nurse practitioner who actually runs the wellness program at one of our large companies back in Wisconsin.
Okay.
And to have somebody on site and then have all the amenities that they need to exercise and take care of themselves and healthy food at the cafeteria and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we need
I think
to
the
be.
challenge is that, there's a certain scale involved in doing that, and a lot of our employers are smaller, and they can't do it, but even though they might want to do it. So I guess we have to find ways to help them too.
Partnerships.
Yeah, exactly.
We had a chance to tour the Egger Group when they were announcing that they were coming here and this type of thing. And they've got programs over there for young folks that may want to come to work for them. They will pay a bonus so folks can go make a down payment on a car so they can get there. They will pay for them working part-time, and if they're willing to take electronics and they're willing to take a maintenance program, I've forgotten exactly the way that they named it, at Rowan Cabarrus Community College, they'll work them part-time hours and allow them to go to work, go to school and pay for their schooling out there. There's just all kinds of wonderful opportunities, and if folks are sitting home and you've just graduated from high school and you don't know what to do, please get in touch with EDC or Rowan Cabarrus Community College. There's all kinds of opportunities if you will just inquire about them.
Yeah. They have apprenticeship programs. They have a lot to offer. And I like I said, that's going to raise the bar for everybody, I think. And that's good. I mean, we can't sell ourselves as a low-wage community as a means of attracting companies to come here. And when people inquire about that, when they come to us, we're saying that's not who we are. It's not who we want to be. So if you're looking to come and exploit cheap labor, that Rowan County is not where you want to come.
Business is very simple. Businesses, the more that they depend on their employees, the more skilled they are, the higher you pay them. And especially if you're 18 years old and you just got out of high school, just remember it's so simple. You've just got to learn to do something, and people will pay you for it. It's just that simple.
It's true.
Hey, Rod, could you go back to that slide you had where you had the prospects?
Which one? Let's see. Oh, the pipeline stuff? Was that first one? Second one? About who we got in there?
Yeah, I know it was blue writing. That one.
What?
Yeah, okay. I want to give a picture of that, but I wanted to say that having Craig and I have been here 7+ years and seen a lot of different things come and go here in the county, but I've been extremely pleased and proud of your group and what you guys have done, been able
Thank
to
you.
accomplish. I think that I really feel like we've made a kind of a turn here from an economic standpoint. And also want to thank my fellow commissioners for all their thoughts and initiatives to go towards the economic development in the county. I wanted to say that I've heard you say it twice now that the interstate being finished will cut 25% off of the travel. I think it's probably more 50, 75% of the travel. I don't know if my fellow commissioners are.
Your speed, it will.
Yeah.
He has a badge. He doesn't have to worry about it.
I literally have gotten, and I don't know if this is true for everyone, but I guess people have been so upset with it. I've actually had strangers that were in the traffic jam, I guess, look me up on the internet and leave me messages on my phone asking me when we were going to fix the road out there. I don't know if the other commissioners have had that happen before,
That's
but.
exactly what we're doing, right?
But with that now, do you think that, and this was sort of what everyone's talking about here, now that we have that wide open interstate and some of the other things that are hopefully happening here in the county, some changes with the renewal with the school system, more housing being built in the areas, some more maybe upscale down Exit 65, that kind of thing. Do you think soon we'll start looking at maybe sort of like the Team Automotive Group, where we're going to look at people thinking about moving their headquarters to our county more than just, we can get a lot of manufacturing jobs and good paying jobs that we do need, but is there a second tier that we're looking at in the future to start doing more? I guess you still use the term white collar jobs.
Yeah, I think that's going to be, because of our proximity, I think that could be a challenge. If you take a look at the corporate headquarters that have relocated to the Charlotte region in the past couple of years, they've all been pretty much in the city of Charlotte, because they want to be close to each other, they want to be close to the talent, they want to be close to that labor pool. I don't think we're there yet, but we're working towards it. I do think, though, we have an opportunity with the site where what will now be the former ballpark of the Intimidators that's in Rowan County, is a great site for a corporate headquarters campus. And we are going to be working with the city of Kannapolis to market that site as a corporate headquarters site. So that will be in our county. It's right on the edge, obviously, but if we can make that one go, then we can then hopefully attract some other ones. I think the best opportunity for a community our size would be some sort of regional headquarters, not a national headquarters. So if we could get a regional headquarters of a national firm, that could be an opportunity for us. It's close, similar to maybe Toyota Racing Development, which is part of a bigger company, but this is their Charlotte presence, and it's here.
Yeah, and I wouldn't, necessarily thinking, like Honeywell moving to our county, but maybe some smaller groups, or, and I don't know, I haven't studied economic development theory, which I guess there is one. I don't know if there's one or not, but that you go out and study. But when you see growth like you do right now in the Charlotte area, and you have a lot of these people moving in, does any of the, let's see, how does it work? Does any of the companies that are maybe there that are smaller, that feel like, hey, now we're getting kind of left out, maybe we want to go somewhere, we're kind of a small fish here in Charlotte, but we could go up the road a little bit and sort of be a big fish up there and still have easy access back and forth to what we need to do. I don't know if that's something that's talked about or even if that's something that's seen. I didn't know is that something that's even...
That happens, and what also happens is people get pushed out of the market because of the lack of available land. So they don't have the ability to expand anymore, or the ability to expand at a reasonable cost. And so they look outside of the county. There was one that just did that, that's looking to move to a neighboring county because they were down near the stadium in Charlotte. Can't remember the name of the company. Remember? I think it was a steel company, but...
Oh, Charlotte Pipe, maybe?
Yeah, that was it, Charlotte Pipe, yeah. They just they're getting squeezed out, and they need to go somewhere else. So I think they decided to go to Union or Stanley County. So there are opportunities like that. I guess we'd have to do some work to see how we could identify those.
All right.
And we have to be careful not to be seen as poaching companies from one county in our region as well. So we have to be careful about how we do that.
Yeah. But anyway, you guys are doing a great job.
Well, thank you. Appreciate your support.
We were a bridesmaid on a deal a few years ago, and we brought in the site consultant that had run that deal, and we called him and asked him if he would spend an afternoon or a day with us to talk with community leaders about Rowan County and what did you see from the outside. How did we lose this? And we all knew it. It really was nothing that we had done. It was more what attracted them to this other community. But we got a lot of insight from that gentleman, and remember him saying, he said, I can look in your eyes, all of you sitting around this table, and see how desperate you are for things to get better. But let me tell you, it's coming. And he said, please be patient. And he said, one of the big deals is land, like Rod was saying. And so he said, believe it or not, Charlotte's about out of land. He says that's why they go up with everything and not out, because the cost of land is so expensive. It lends itself not only from a labor standpoint, but also from a land cost standpoint to build white-collar jobs that go up in big buildings. He says, and I know that you enjoy celebrating with Cabarrus County and Kannapolis. Every time you open the newspaper, there's something to celebrate with their success, and you're hoping that it would be you at some point. He says, but be picky, because one thing certainly, or a lot of stuff you have a location, and you have an abundance of land. So in your zeal to have a win, be picky, because it's coming your way, and don't sell your soul. You'll be able to select the good jobs that you want. Just hold on. And so I think if you think about Atlanta, you think of towns like Roswell, Alpharetta, these areas. Certainly I'm not saying we want to be Alpharetta or Roswell. What I'm saying is, 30 years ago, those guys were small, sleepy towns. And as a Charlotte grows, that this will come our way. And the last thing I'll say is, I don't think that we were really ready for growth. I think over these past few years, what we've talked about is setting the framework for growth. And so 4 or 5 years, 6 years, 7 years ago, I don't know that we were ready to accept or to direct what is coming. Now I think we are, and that's been a good thing. So we've not been sitting waiting. We've been very industrious.
No, you haven't. You have.
We've
You've
shored
done a lot.
up a lot of things, and so when it comes, I think we'll be ready.
Now we just got to figure out how to do the next spec building, since our current one is gone.
Yeah.
Hopefully that developer will want to do another one.
Scott, thank you. Appreciate your good work
Yeah.
very much. He's the real brains behind the
He
operation.
is. He is, right. I'm just a pretty face.
We hired a pretty face. We did.
She's not here.
As usual, he says very little, but when he does, it's a zinger. It's
correct. I will. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, guys. Appreciate
All
your
right. Thank you.
presentation.
I'm going to pull my drive out of here. And
Thank you for being here.
all right. Thank you.
So at 12, we're supposed to go to lunch. We can quickly talk about the water system. We can punt for after lunch. What's the pleasure of the board? Y'all want to go ahead and eat? Are we ready to eat? Y'all want to just, yeah. Y'all want to go ahead and eat?
You're ready? Just eat. Tell Beamer he can eat with us.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Are you here for them? Yeah. Why aren't you out digging? Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and, this is not a long issue. I know Jim, they pointed out Jim's here to hear about that. I just wanted to bring up, when we began talking years ago about infrastructure in Rowan County, Commissioner Pierce was a big part of this discussion in bringing water to the northern and southern part of the county. So before the Duke Energy coal ash issue became an issue, the county was working to design and build a water system in the northern end of the county that would go out past EDC. Mentioned that we called it the Carlton site. Now they want to call it the Long Ferry Road site. But our intention was to water up a big part of Long Ferry Road because there's a lot of industrial potential out there. The Duke Energy thing happened. Duke ended up paying for this water line for us. We still had designs on the county not only owning water systems in the north end of the county, but also in the southern end where we were building the old Beatty Ford Road interchange. Once reality kind of hit with the southern line and the exorbitant costs that it would take to water and sewer up that area, I think I remember the number 25, 28 million, something like that. We ended up having to partner with Kannapolis, and we're very glad we did. But that leaves us with a northern water line and only about 150 customers. So I don't expect any action today. I did want us to begin having a conversation about, you know, what do we see the future of that? When we kicked off that water line, we had to make projections as to what the costs would be. There was a lot of conversation from the residents in that area. Some folks were claiming that the county was, you know, was in this to make a profit, and we certainly were not of any folks in the county. You know, those would be the last folks that we'd want to make profit on. So we vowed to those folks that if we saw profit come off of this line, because it was our first year of true experience and not just a financial model, that we would return at least a portion of those profits to them. We just did that in the form of a $150 check that went back to those homeowners. I had a gentleman call me this week and say, Greg, what's this $150 for? And that was returning his portion of those profits. So each year, we looking down the road, we kind of got to deal with that and determine how we run this model. So my question is that I want to throw out there, you know, where do we go from here? Our options are we can maintain this line. We can, I don't really mean to use the term be distracted by this line, but it's something that's being run by the city of Salisbury. Would this be something that the board would consider of giving this line over to SRU, and we focus on other things? Now, before we head down that, there are reasons why we were intent on owning this line, and I'll be real honest. One of the reasons is the county wants to be able to control and promote growth outside of municipalities and not be really held hostage by other municipalities if they didn't see that same potential. So I think that we're all intelligent enough to maybe have this discussion and know that we could sit down with SRU and say we are willing to have a conversation about giving this line over, but there are some understandings that we've got to have, because we are pro-growth and we want to be able to promote growth in the county, and so we need some assurances, ... and I don't know what those are. But we just finished up this fiscal year, and Aaron and I met with, were you there? Who else was there? Craig, were you there at that meeting with we had the residents back again? We promised them we would meet. Was it you? Huh? Oh, it was you, yeah. So we met with a room full of folks that are on the northern water line, and so I just wanted to bring that up and see what the temperature is in the room on us entertaining that, but entertaining it with intelligence and with assurances that we can still meet the goals that we have. And the last thing I'll say is, you know, Duke Energy is out there, and Duke was talking to us about, in fact, a water line extension has been run to Duke Energy. And Duke Energy has expressed interest into taking some of this water. But because of the cost that we would have to pass on, which is significantly higher than the costs of other folks on these lines, it didn't make financial sense for Duke to take water from the county. So one thing that might be a result of us entertaining a discussion like this is the costs that not only the folks of Dukeville would see cut immediately, but the costs may be reduced to Duke Energy that would encourage them to start taking capacity from SRU where they probably would not if we maintain that line, and that's probably good for all of us. It is good for all of us. It would be commerce that would be happening that would not be happening otherwise. It would be profits that are being made that would not be made otherwise. So that's my purpose of bringing this up, and I'll open the floor.
Mr. Chairman, you know my feelings on water and sewer. I've made them clear for 7 years. My big concern is not just the water line itself, but with Chewy going out there and the state paying $1.5 million to extend the sewer, I think we need to come up with some type of program to couple onto that line and bring it the direction down toward the Long Ferry site, simply because industry's not going to come just for water. They're going to have the sewer line for them to be able to come in and build their plants. So turning the water line over to SRU, to me, is not a problem because we didn't pay for it anyway. And that takes the maintenance off of us. And if it makes it more financially feasible for Duke Power to tie on to it, that's a win-win for everybody. So I don't have a problem with that. But I do want to see us focus on getting septic into that interchange down there, because that's the only way we're going to grow industrial growth is to have those amenities there so that it makes the site available to industrial traffic, as well as we don't know what's going to happen. You know, they put a big plant down there, everybody might want sewer then. And I've got to say, from my years in construction, you get 2 big plants like that and you have water and sewer, there's a housing development coming. Yes, you can count on it. So I think we need to have a full scope of what we would like to see over the next 10 years and head that way. But as far as the water line, I don't have a problem with SRU taking it over. They own everything else. So, I mean, what's one more piece?
So those are good comments, and let me respond. We have never had in the history of the world sewer on the east side of I-85 at Long Ferry Road. There is no sewer on the other side of 85. There's water there. We've always had water that dead-ended on the east side, on the other side of the bridge. Chewy is hooked onto that water line, but they hooked onto the water line before the county meter. So they are on city water, and Chewy is not on county water. Now, when we were working with SRU to discuss the issue of septic across 85 there on the east side, they did their engineering work, their estimates and all that, and came up with a price of $1.5 million. This board's decision was, do we want to go out and spend $1.5 million of Rowan County, from the Rowan County taxpayers, and go ahead and put that sewer under 85, bore under 85, and bring it up before we have a deal? If we do that, we incur 100% of that cost. Or do we wait till we have a deal, and once we have a deal through CDBG grant, the state of North Carolina will pay the $1.5 million. We chose to wait, we rolled the dice, and we won. So out of actually the cost came back at $1,550,000. CDBG is paying $1.5 million of that. The county agreed to pay $50,000 the overage. That line will be up and going sometime, probably, I don't know, Jim, is it March? Sometime in March. So they're doing a great job. We assured Chewy that line would be bored under the interstate and it'll be there. So I lay that groundwork to say, by March, sewer will, for the first time ever, be on the east side of 85 on Long Ferry Road. Now, to address what you said, our decision then is, do we spend taxpayer dollars to take it down to the Carlton Long Ferry Road site, or do we wait for the next deal? And I think we would all agree, now that it's on the east side, the big work is done. If we get a user at the Carlton site, the Long Ferry Road site, then hooking on from Chewy and running to Carlton is a much probably cheaper prospect, I would guess. I don't know, I think it would be, because we're not boring. And this is prime for another CDBG grant. So being under the interstate for the first time is a huge deal, and it will give us the opportunity now to run down Long Ferry Road using CDBG funds. So,
Rowan Utilities, you folks are separate from the city of Salisbury, is that correct? You're owned by the city of Salisbury. Do you have a board?
We're a city department of the city of Salisbury.
Okay. All right. I have no interest in piddling around with a small line that we're never going to make any money on, that we have to go back to Salisbury to get any extension. They've got the only water plant around, and we're never going to, put a $500 million or whatever it takes to build a water processing plant. So we have to work closely with probably the most important asset as far as economic development is concerned is the water. There's some things that I'd like to make sure that they understood that when you start working with manufacturing firms that are coming in, it's very competitive, and water is one of the most important things that they have. And we had a prospect not long ago that was going to be a huge water user. And the decision of whether they come here or not is probably going to get right down to the rate that Salisbury charges for water. So I would like to see us, and I don't want to take over the water system for Salisbury. It's not that. But we need to work hand in hand with them with this important asset and what it's going to be in the future. And I don't know exactly how that's going to work because we hadn't talked to anybody about it. But it is the number one it's even more important than land, is getting water and sewer, as Commissioner Pierce has already said. That's what's going to drive development. And we're going to have, somehow we need to work closely to know how competitive we're going to be, because we're not going to be competitive unless Salisbury water is competitive. So that's what I feel. The water issue, the water line that we own now is not an issue, whether we keep it or whether we sell it. I'd just as soon as it go to Salisbury and we just get out of it. But the more important fact is working with Salisbury for the future of Rowan County.
Mr. Chairman?
yes,
You may have touched on this, but
probably did because I talk a lot.
just as a reference in the historical point and of things changing, when the board and staff, when we set out several years ago to do this line, we were also looking at a water system in South Rowan. So at that point in time, it made all the sense in the world that the more customers we have, the better, because it would balance out the system. What's changed since then, and in the last year to year and a half, is that I think it's High Bridge development has asked to be annexed by the city of Kannapolis. The city of Kannapolis is going to provide the water and sewer, and we're making a contribution to them. So that part of the initial equation of this being a county water system is no longer part of the equation. So I just wanted to add that as a fact of some of the circumstances that have changed now, that were not a part of the equation when we initially set out to do this.
And the fact is, now that water is down Long Ferry Road and it passes the Carlton site, which is 600 acres, as Jim said, if we have an industry that wants to come in there that uses water, say it's a bottling company that wants to use water, a large part of their calculation for whether they come here or go somewhere else is going to be the cost of water. And if our water is twice the cost because we've layered Rowan County on top of SRU, then we won't be competitive. So not only for the folks of Dupeville Road, but for our future economic development competitiveness, I would like for us to, whether we set up I hate to say committee because then, well, not even that, because we like to be able to meet with folks and have good conversation. So Jay's here. I want to be careful. I'm asking. I guess what I want to ask is if the commissioners would be interested in talking with SRU about.
All right.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Well, certainly if all we're ever going to do is have our 150 plus customers on the line, then I don't see any reason for us to keep that line. But I'm open to also talking with SRU and maybe not being, and I think maybe Jim was talking about, not being a customer, but being a partner with them. I mean, we have some, they have a big advantage because they have a big water system, but we also have a very large county where we have a larger revenue base, and maybe the two of us can work together to expand, but I think we do need to come up with a plan and see what actually it is that we want to do or try to do. I guess the question, one of the questions I had for the manager was, what you were talking about a while ago, was there is advantages for us having existing customers and existing water system in place if we want to get loans from the LGC, if we decide we're going to expand ourselves as opposed to starting from zero?
Yeah, well, the advantage of us having a water system now that is sustainable and not in the red is that it would be much easier to run water lines in other places, and like down south when we were talking about that, or extending it, or going in another direction, because we've already established that we have the ability to manage a water system that is not in the red. Now, in large part, that's due to the large contribution from Duke Energy.
Right.
But nevertheless, we're managing it the way that the LGC would say, good job.
Mm-hmm.
So to answer your question, that is a benefit, and it was it would have been most likely a tremendous benefit had the southern water line extensions, if that were going to be a county or a county and city project. But does that answer your question?
Well, yeah, some of it. So there's not a requirement, say we were going to, for some reason, I don't know, expand water out in, say, Gold Hill, for instance. We'd have to get water from Albemarle, I suppose. And that's not going to be connected to the water system that we have Longs Ferry Road. Do they look at that as part of the same water system because we use the same funds?
Okay, the Jim Beamer, you may want to help me with this, but as far as, and do you mind to come up, Jim, and just, if what I say is wrong, say it's wrong? But as, yeah, as I understand it, the technical system ID from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Resources, DENR, would classify that as a separate system. Now, whether the LGC would classify that as a separate system, you know, having its own separate enterprise fund, you know, I don't know the answer to that. But insofar as what DENR, it would most definitely have a separate system ID number and would be a separate system if they were not interconnected somehow. So in that case, it would be a separate system. Now, whether or not you know, the LGC would look at it and say, well, you know, you've got water, you've got an enterprise fund that operates water for the county, whether or not they would say, well, wait, there's two separate ID systems, so you need two separate enterprise funds. I don't know the answer to that. I'm inclined to say they wouldn't say that you have to have two enterprise funds. Do you know the answer to that?
I think you're correct. It's you have your separate ID system, but your source water is the city of Salisbury. So if you wanted to expand further, somewhere that was closer to Albemarle, if you had a different source water, the state may have to look at whether that would work with the existing system ID number with another source water. I'm not aware of many systems that do that, but generally once you have a system ID, you are correct. You are a viable water system. You're a water provider, but your source water is coming from us, if that makes sense. So you could expand other areas, but you'd have to apply to the state, and we have what we call a one-stop shop where we can do our own engineering. Because you're your own separate ID, you would have to go to the state for all of their approvals and everything. We can't do those for you, unfortunately.
Are you saying that, and I was just using that example because I know
Sure.
That's a long way to run water from Salisbury all the way out to Gold Hill.
Right.
But are you saying that we would have to get water from Salisbury if we were going to expand out there?
No, but you could have multiple, like Kannapolis is an example. They have several source waters. Concord, I mean, it's all part of, there's a lot of testing and regulations and policies, and in fact, your water supply plan shows where you expect to get your future source water. Landis is another example. They have multiple suppliers, so that's not the issue.
So there's, what is it? Also, and there's something about moving water out of certain basins into other basins or
That's
something?
called an IBT, and that's another one. If you go from one basin to another, ask Union County. It's a long process that costs a lot of dollars, and there's always been talk about changing that, but you know, like we're interested in what's going on in the Yadkin PD River Basin. In fact, Rowan County is a member of there's called a Yadkin PD Water Management Group, and we meet every other month together as a group. All of the people who withdraw water from that basin get together, including Union County. And so that's where a lot of the rubber meets the road. We talk about plans and future development and have a water shortage or plan. It's great when we all work together because we are very interconnected. We're interconnected with Statesville, you know, Kannapolis in a roundabout way. So, and that's what the state's kind of promoting, those interconnections. In case something does go wrong, you have multiple sources of water.
I want to make sure we understand the competitive challenge. We are twice the rate of all other users on SRU's system.
For water only. Just for water, yeah, water only.
Water, and we had zero capital cost. We don't have a dime in equipment, and we're twice the rate because Duke Energy paid for that line. So let's pretend that we're going to Gold Hill. Duke's not paying for the line in Gold Hill. So we're going to have the same challenge of when we sell the first gallon on a new, we're not announcing we're running water to Gold Hill, okay? So let's make sure we understand that. As an example, when we sell the first gallon of water in Gold Hill, it will be twice the rate again. On top of that, we'll now have to add the allowance for capital cost for sinking the pipe in the ground. So we may be, I don't know what that number.
And we're using about $150 per linear foot to run public water lines.
So it's going to be 3, 4, 5, 10 times the rate if Rowan County decides that we're going to maintain that. So from a competitive standpoint, whether it's giving it over, I just want us to have the discussion and come up with what do we do to turn us into an uncompetitive water source as the county to a competitive water source, whether it's saying here, take it with contingencies that we're comfortable with, or whether it's some type of partnership, whatever that might be. But it's staring us in the face, because by March, Chewy's going to be done, sewer's going to be there. They've got a new developer for the Carlton site. Things are, I believe what Commissioner Pierce does. When we get 1,200 people down there, and I saw John Carlton last week, and I said, are y'all still marketing that for industrial, or do you think that might go residential? He said, no, we're marketing for industrial. Don't kid yourself. I'm not speaking for the Carltons. Stuff is going to start popping up everywhere out there, and we're going to have the same complaints that we're getting from Dukeville. Your water rate is twice what it is there. And so we're going to, if we want to be competitive, we've got to tackle this deal, and let's do it now before the roof gets done at Chewy, and make some decisions and get that behind us and move on.
Well, I mean, you made a lot of assumptions there, because we don't know this going to be 4 or 5 times, because do you know what the water rates are from Albemarle? I don't know. So maybe they're less than SRU. But, I mean, I don't think there's any point to go build water out there. I'm saying there would be some reason, there would be a plant coming there and they need water, and we would do that. But, no, I agree with you, though. Like I said before, if we're never going to do anything, then I don't see the point of us having that line up there as a third party or as a pass-through. But I'm just saying, today I don't have enough information to make that decision.
No, I don't.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, could we not form a delegation to meet with SRU, lay all the cards on the table, and just see where we are with this, and then come back, that delegation come back and report to the board their findings, and then we could put together an MOU if we want to move forward with SRU, so that we have some guidelines about how to proceed. I don't want to hold their feet to the fire, but I would like to know what their plan is. If that growth does come there, what are they going to do? And how are we going to get there? I do know from the work that we did on the southern end of the county with water and sewer, the big obstacle was there was no existing service there. All these grants that we're talking about couple on to an existing service. So if we have our own, we're not going to be able to draw those grants. So for us to be able to finance this moving forward, this is really our only opportunity, is to partner up with SRU, and we just need to figure out how we're going to do that, and what's the best thing to do for our citizens by doing this. And I don't think we need to have the whole board there, because as you well know in the negotiations you've had with the different boards you're on, it comes down to 2 or 3 people talking and figuring out what's the best way to go about it. So I'm of the opinion we need to move forward now. Like you said, once Chewy's built, it's too late to start talking about it. It needs to happen right now. And I think the sooner we do it, the better off everybody's going to be.
How about if we not form a delegation? How about if we just agree as a group that we're going to have some conversations with SRU? Is that good?
Yeah, I just was saying it as the delegation so that we didn't have a formal board and have all these moving parts. Just a couple of people sitting in the room and let's talk about it.
I'm with you. Let's just agree we're going to talk with SRU.
According to Jim's figures, it's about $800,000 per mile to do this. And so we're not talking about small dollars when we start talking about water lines and then septic on top of that. Or I guess that was water and septic together when you said $152.
Well, no, that was just water right now.
Water. So we're not, we're talking then with sewer and everything.
Sewer's actually more expensive because it doesn't follow the terrain.
So we're talking about big dollars here. And if we're talking about the future of Rowan County and getting the types of businesses in here that we want higher paying jobs, we want better companies to come in here. And I'm not talking about the ones that have come in recently, because we love them all. But in the future, that's our goal. And we have to plan now for what's going to happen 5 years from now. Correct. 5 years from now. And we're not talking about small dollars, is my point. And I'd love to see us start down this road.
All right, well, we'll just leave it at that. I don't think we have any action to take. You got some more?
yeah,
Please.
I think we should go ahead and form the delegation, and I think they should meet twice a week, and there should be 4 commissioners on it. I know which 4 that I think.
4, you just said 4. I picked up on that. Third shift, you mean?
That motion fails for a second. So why don't we go ahead, Jim, thank you for being here. Let's go ahead and take lunch, and we'll be back when we're done eating, I guess.
Jim, come on back and have lunch with us. It's only 150.
All right, we are back after lunch break and some really, really good chicken and dumplings. So we might be fading out here soon. So we're going to move on to the policy naming for county buildings and rooms. And I don't know, Manager Church, are you going to do that? This is something we don't need to hammer out today, but maybe us give some general direction.
Sure, I'll just give a brief overview, and the county attorney's here. He's conducted a lot of research and probably can explain what we can or may do better than I can. But just to give you some background on the matter, we've had individuals have came forward wanting, X room named after them and would like to give a donation, and the staff response has been, we don't have a policy for that, and that's not something we do. The research I've done has been limited to the general administration buildings, and to my knowledge, most of those were named after public servants. They weren't based on contributions. So.
Were they after death?
Huh?
Were they after death, most of them?
No? I don't know.
Got a shot at this.
Either way.
You didn't see that one coming, did you?
You're going to name the cat center after me? It's already gone.
Once again.
We named the EMS station at Frank Thomason. This building was named after Newt Cohen. This room or the building? Building. And South Library was named after Frank Tadlock.
You do have a shot, Jim.
So
Name Cleveland my library after you.
Jay's done a lot of research on this, and there's a lot of there's a lot of maybe landmines and precautions to take in naming buildings, and we just wanted to see if when a citizen wants to donate money, and you tell them no, that's not something that you that we don't do that. It may not be what the board would like. So the basic general reason for putting it on the agenda is to determine if the board wants us to create a policy for naming buildings or different rooms, et cetera, after citizens, or if you want us to develop a policy of monetary contributions or a fundraising campaign type thing, we'd be glad to do that. Jay, do you mind to just share a few things that you found in your research?
It's obviously, it's an issue that's showing up more and more as people look for creative public-private partnerships to raise money for primarily public purpose. You know, there's schools, renovations of historic schools. We found in Buncombe County, football fields. There were opportunities that for private contributions where they named football facilities. So the bottom line is you can do it. The landmines that he mentioned are, your policies need to be designed in such a way that they're fair and open. But the obvious issue is when sort of a bad actor wants to come in and say, you know, I want to give X amount of money and here's the name that I want you to use. And how do you, you know, how do you navigate those situations? And so, you know, not doing it, you don't have to worry about it. But if you do, and the West Rowan Library is a perfect example of a great opportunity for a capital campaign, because you did have some private capital campaign money out there for naming opportunities, and that's what brought this one up before us was an offer that we just didn't have a policy to accept it and do it. But anyway, it's policies are advised. I think we should probably at least look at opening up the door to doing that, public-private partnerships, but we need to do it in a way that we don't end up with names that we don't want to have associated with Rowan County.
So who would do that? Who would develop that? Volunteering or?
Jay and I will gladly work on it. There's probably one out there.
Okay. All right, is that something?
I provided a link, and it's the university system is sort of where it shows up the most, and most universities, and the one that I gave as an example is North Carolina State University, and they have a committee that reviews it, and they have standards that they apply, and it seems fairly comprehensive, and so there are some sample policies that are already out there.
Are they fairly simple?
Fairly simple. It's more process driven. How are they reviewed, and then what standards do you apply? Yeah, but they're fairly simple.
You just want to give a sense of the board to ask Aaron and Jay to pursue that? Okay with that? All right. All right, we'll do that.
The only thing I would add, I would take into consideration, because of things that's already transpired here, like the Wallace Educational Forum, and what's going on with the Dog Adoption Center. I do know that that's going to be named by the standbacks. I mean, so we need to have that policy enable those kind of things to happen. If you have a large benefactor, that, you know, they should get first consideration or something on naming these buildings.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the Dog Adoption Center, because no one is asked. I mean, you know, there's hundreds of generous citizens in the community who are donating for that project.
Right.
Not one single person has asked, is my name going to be on?
That's right.
This or that, you know, with that building. So the kind of what this policy may address is the unique circumstance where someone comes and says, I want my name on this. Mm-hmm. And you know,
well, just like when Ms. Mariquas built the Cat Wing, she insisted she didn't want her name on it. We put a plaque on the inside commemorating her donation, but she didn't want it named for her. So we need to have something in that policy that enables us to identify a benefactor on our own.
And we're going to have to talk with, like Don, with Parks and Rec, because we've got a shelter out there that was named after somebody who didn't even live in Rowan County but was a grandchild, and the family got together and raised the money to build the shelter, and they put a plaque in there in somebody's name. So the amounts that are donated are going to, you know, have to be dependent on what you're naming, because you can't have a shelter that might cost $15,000 to build, and then a building, of course, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then rooms inside that building. So you know, we just need to think about what is already has a name on it, and what we're looking at.
All right, if there's no other comments, we'll just ask these guys to move ahead with that. Miss Judy, yes.
I've got these two pieces of paper here. There's one from United Way talking about support for developing a 6 to 8 bed detox center for Rowan County, which is very needed. And a lot of times we're trying to find beds for people and we don't have them. Period. So we got to send them somewhere. So as we looked at the needs assessment that was done by our health department, the Millwall and United Way. Sorry.
Sorry.
The needs assessment, county needs assessment, which is done, I think, every 3 to 4 years. The number one issue is substance use. So in talking with Donna Faco and Amy Brown, Nina is still on maternity leave, but I asked this question about the primary needs across the county, and you know, we brainstormed to see what kind of things we can identify to address the whole area of substance use. And the majority of our children in foster care right now are impacted by parental substance use. And we can barely keep up with the need. The majority of children in foster care are impacted by, Rowan County has a high incidence of substance abuse and overdose. Now, you may see, oh, Josh is here. This is good. A while back in the newspaper, the Post interviewed the head of the emergency department, the doctor that's the head of the emergency department here in our county. And he said that, well, our overdose deaths are going down. Opioid use is going down. And no, what's happening is we have the federal law and state law that says you can only receive X many pills per prescription for your doctor. I'm experiencing that now. It's not fun. But that was good because it reduces the number of opioid prescription pills out in our community. So what's happening? Well, we've gotten really good on using Narcan to bring people back. And we're bringing them back from heroin overdoses and even some methamphetamines, excuse me, just meth. And that's where we continue to see the addiction rate, and it is high. It's continuing to shoot up, and it's now that especially pregnant moms are using heroin and meth, now we're getting truly addicted babies born here. And so what we're looking at here is to work with United Way and Healthy Rowan and our health department and social services department to try to come up with ways to serve folks that are substance addicted. So at the bottom it says long-term options. The detox center is a long-term goal in partnership with United Way, and we're hoping the city of Salisbury, and also going out and finding big grants. Number 2 is substance use residential treatment program for mothers and infants. And I will say that our current women's shelter or residence, what's it called? Miriam Ramirez, Capstone. Capstone is the only long-term treatment center that we have in the county. But it cannot house mother and babies. And they're looking for a way to get a house up and running that will support moms and babies. So Donna says that approximately 16 new incidences each month of infants born affected by substances. Short term, we would like to beef up our peer support group employees. We have one that's part-time now, and if you haven't met her, Ashley, she is a dynamite. She is also a long-term substance abuser. When you hear her story and being able to come out of where she was, she has such a passion for helping others through our peer support program to so they can make their way back to not using. So what we're asking for, and I didn't put any numbers on it, but if we can get Ashley full-time plus 2 other peer support people, they hold group support meetings several times a week, and we'd like to be able to get that up. And let's see. Anyway, even with Smart Start, being able to help moms and children is high on their list when it comes to substance abuse. So this is just kind of an overview, and would really appreciate your support when we get into the bones of the budget. And Donna was out of town, and so was Amy today, so that's why you had to listen to me.
Okay. All right. Commissioner, well, we're not going to take a break because we just did that. So why don't we move ahead with talking about this year?
Can I ask Aaron one question before we leave this subject over here? Have you heard anything from the attorneys that we are associated with about getting settlement from drug companies?
Yeah, I have. There was a lengthy letter recently received, and Jay and I discussed it. But it's, I mean, that's definitely when that settlement comes, and the amount of it is definitely exactly what that money, is supposed to go for.
Did they give any indication whether they're talking about years?
I mean, I imagine it will be. And then, I don't know for sure. Jay knows more about it than I do, but I've heard that it may possibly be like the tobacco settlement, to where it's not only maybe years before it's settled, but once it's settled, it'll be drawn out even further to where you'll receive payments. So.
Thank you.
I think the Sacklers should have to pay for every new detox.
Thank you. I want to just first highlight the key takeaways I've noted on on the different topics you've talked about, and then move into hearing from all of you about your priorities for the coming year. So the Better Jobs for Better Lives, you've served just under 2,000 clients since it started. You've given scholarships, 263 scholarships. The most frequent need for the scholarships was healthcare. And you all emphasize the need to continue to build partnerships to start getting past those silos. Related, the education and second chance training, the Better Jobs for Better Lives has the Governor's Innovation Award to reach justice-involved individuals. And so you want to continue to work to provide opportunities to reduce recidivism and provide hope to people coming out of incarceration. On economic development, you heard all about tremendous success in job expansion and investment in your county. The EDC is working on enhancing their networks and partnerships, so I'm hearing a theme from you all about partnerships being important. I thought it was interesting, 86% of businesses said the leaders in the community are on the right track in terms of the economy. 57% agreed that the economy is good. And then Expand Rowan is helping keep existing businesses. So they are focusing not just on recruitment, but also helping with existing businesses. On the naming policy, the manager and attorney are going to draft a policy for the board's consideration. The long-term goal for the water system, you all noted that water is key for economic development and want to start talking to SRU about the future of your lines. The subdivision street standards, your proposal that you were considering for cul-de-sacs and street widths is reasonable. NCDOT would pay for street maintenance at those widths. And the point of your discussion is about fire safety and service. That's the real emphasis there. And regarding substance abuse, there's a desire to seek funds for treatment options. So that's my short recap of your morning. What I want to shift to now is your priorities for the coming year. You've heard all of this, you hear from your constituents all the time. What are some of the things that are important to you in the coming year? And we could take turns talking to make sure we hear them all. I could give you a few minutes to jot down some notes on Post-its if you'd like to start that way. But if anyone's ready to talk, we can do that as well.
Well, I'll just say that the one issue for the coming year that's going to be a big issue for us is the capital funding for the school system. We've got a lot of money committed to them, and seeing how that goes in a positive direction is something that we need to talk about at some point in time to, what's the latest numbers, $70 million?
I said 75, so I don't know where we are.
Somewhere in that range, I don't know what it is. But anyway, that's something I thought that we haven't talked about so far today. We talked about.
And is that something you want to discuss a little, or just put it on, not today, put it on your agenda for?
It's just a huge part of the budget for the coming year.
Good.
Jim is right, and we can sit back and say, well, we'll let those elected folks take the hit. This board's going to have to step up and lend some support. There's the questions are consolidation. The questions are.
Is his mic on? She can't hear you. Might be too far back.
Yeah, questions are consolidation, some closures, building new schools. And there needs to be a plan that's clear and that we can support, community understand what the real critical areas are. I don't know. We don't know how to fix all of it, but we've got to be a part of the answer.
Well, even though I don't have specific numbers for what we need for substance abuse, I'm just going to throw a number out there. I think it's time for us to invest $1 million. And that's probably all choking you right now. But it affects everything up there. We want people to work, but if they're addicted, they can't. We want people to raise their children in a healthy home, but if they're addicted, they can't. Education, addicted parents don't get their kids to school, and these kids miss months of school when you put all the time together. Economic development. I mean, if you haven't got healthy mind, body, and spirit, you're not going to have that, those people that will draw our new companies to us. So, you know, whether it's education, the cost of healthcare to our employers and to the county, the children that are living with addicts, I mean, the trauma of that is just enormous. The crime rate that we see, even the cost to our jails. About 6 months ago, I had a little tour with Greg Hanold, and I asked him, I said, so if you didn't lock up all the mentally ill and all the drug addicts, how would that reduce the numbers? And he said, in half. In half. So by investing in programs, whether it's brick and mortar or whatever, I mean, it's got to be the whole community together. And if we don't really, you know, put some money where our mouth is, we're not going to get a hold of this tiger. I mean, we'll be whipped around by the tail. And when you look at the rising number of citizens who are still becoming addicted, I mean, to me, that's just like this glaring light that we need to fix.
Thank you.
I'd like for us to continue the work we're doing out at the airport. I know we were looking at doing a facelift out there to make it a better presentation to those that drive to the airport as well as come off the planes. And I'd like for us to continue to work toward getting the taxiways on the other side of the runway so that we can eventually move our terminal to the other side. And of course, you know, that has to be done incrementally. And most of the taxiways would be federally funded anyway, so it's not going to reach too deep into the county's pockets. But I think Commissioner Eds and I have both agree that a facelift out at the airport is well needed. We've done some of the work, but we haven't completed it.
So have the renovations, the facelift, and the taxiways continue to be priorities? Other, Commissioner Caskey?
Sorry, I've had so much caffeine today, I'm starting to get the jitters here. Well, really, I just like to continue some things we've been doing. I like to continue exploring our options for Veterans Court that we started last year. Justin's done a lot of work on that, and he's still got some more that he's doing, and hopefully we'll have some more information on that by the end of or before budget. I'd like to continue what we started last year as we were set funds aside for school resource officers for, I think in the long term, over many years, if we able to increase that budget a little bit each year, eventually we may be able to have enough to start, putting some resource officers in elementary schools. And of course, if the school system's able to get some grants, we may be able to expedite that. And just that's two things today I've thought about, just continue to work on that we've worked on starting last year.
So the Veterans Court and expanding the school resource officers. Other priorities, you're not limited to just one?
From my perspective, some things that I'd like to continue. As Jim and myself and Aaron and others have been involved in this education collaborative, continue to really be a driving force in that from the community standpoint. Drive home with the school systems, the alignment issue, and making sure that we're aligning with economic development trends and needs. And Jim and I have talked, from our perspective, this may be the most important thing I think we've been involved in since we've been on the board, is helping create this overall education vision framework for the future. The Ford Rowan, I think there's been really a lot of good success from that. I appreciate very much the commissioners who have been willing to invest in that. I think it was very much needed. I'd like to see us turn the corner on that. I'm hoping that these new surveys will show that we've really turned the corner from an internal perspective, and so now we can go out to the world and start promoting Rowan County outside. So thank you again for your support of that. I really, it's gone better than I expected. I'm with Craig on the airport. That's a good thing. Forward Rowan, that will kick off this year. One of the things that drew us immediately, even without meeting Rod, was through his resume, the community that he was in Ohio. He moved that model from basically an 80% municipal and county supported EDC and 20% private sector to they flipped that. So 80% of their funding came from private sector and 20% from public. And I always wondered why we didn't have more support from the private sector in Rowan County. In fact, we were raising $0. I know there's a history there. We tried to do that, and that ended up in disaster. So there's been some time overcoming old ghosts of Christmas past, I think. But this will be a big turning point this year in economic development, as well as Rod and his team are doing. When you go out and try it, I think they're going to try to raise $1.7, $1.8 million over 5 years from the private sector. That'll be a real thermometer on how they feel economic development is going in Rowan County. If we can raise that, people want to see results, and now that they're seeing that, I think they're willing to invest. And so that'll be it's not just seeing success in that program, but that will tell us a lot about where we've come from, and that's a big thing. I'd like to talk with municipalities about the issue of gateways. As we come off of our major roads, 85, 29, 70, our main streets, you know, that is the first impression that we have. Commissioner Pierce brought up a facelift that we're doing at the airport, and it's for that very reason, as businesses are going to use the airport when they pull off of Main Street onto Airport Road and then turn into Airport Loop Road to go to the airport. What is the impression? Is it one of, you know, a federal penitentiary look, which we've got now with ugly, you know, metal fences that have that look, or is it a look both going in and coming as people fly in, they come out? What does that say about us as they're entering those facilities and as they're leaving? And that says a lot about a community as well. So as you leave Salisbury and go into Spencer, have we ever had conversations with Salisbury and Spencer about that line, and how does it look passing from community to community? Is this something we're really proud of? East Spencer coming off of 85, we're talking about a new interchange and bringing new life to that community. China Grove going down 29, what does all this look like if you're coming in 70 and you hit Rowan County? You know, our manager has done a tremendous job on this issue of trash pickup. He has, you know, taken the bull by the horns and all that, been really creative, and we appreciate that. I'd like to have a cooperative county and municipal discussion where what are we trying to show the outside world about 10 municipalities in the county as you enter in. Some of them look, just from a county perspective, some of ours don't look so great. So, you know, there's some, my kids went to school up in Virginia, and in that community, they've got a lot of real, just beautiful intersections in there, and they're all paid for and taken care of by private businesses. So this certain business sponsors that very popular, very big, very visible intersection, and so it's landscaped beautifully. And so I don't say that's what we do, but just thinking along the lines of how can we really highlight a community in a better way.
I'd like to see us continue the success story we have with our animal services. I think Mike remembers the night we got sworn in, they were actually on the steps of the county office building down here with picket signs about the gas chamber. So we were able to get that done away with and do euthanation by injection, but that was just the start. And since that time, we've had a very good benefactor. We all know Ms. Mariquas came in and built an addition to our existing shelter for the cats, which kind of turned the switch on, because all of a sudden now we've got 15 rescue groups that come and pull animals, dogs and cats, out of our facility. And we have gone from literally one of the worst animal services in the state to number 3 right now. And I know we'll never get to number 1 and number 2, because if they get an animal that comes into the shelter that they don't think they can adopt, they won't take it. So actually, I feel like we've probably got one of the top ones in the state in the fact that we take everything. And with the rescue groups working in coordination with our staff, I mean, we just don't euthanize animals anymore that are adoptable. Now, sometimes they'll come in injured, or they'll come in and they've been abused, and there's just no way to save them, and we have to do some euthanization, but it's not on adoptable animals. But what we have to do is we have to continue to work hard like we've been doing, and I want to see us to continue funding our Animal Services Department for what they need to do this job that they do for our citizens, because a lot of people will investigate before they move into a county just how are they taking care of their animals. And I think it's important that we cover all the bases when we talk about economic development. We have to put a good face on this county every chance we get. And I want to applaud all of the animal adoptions that go on, all the rescue groups, all those that go out and walk the dogs. It's a tremendous job, and you're doing a great job, and I think we need to keep it up.
Good. Any other priorities that you want to mention at this point?
I work with the Parks Department. I'm the liaison to that, and of course, I'm prejudiced because I work with them and see how many people use our parks. But I really think that the parks are important to our citizens, and they're not. We don't have parks to make a profit. Dan Nicholas brings a lot of money in through the year, but it costs a lot of money to have parks. But as our population increases, we're going to see a push on land, whether it's agricultural land or, municipal areas being built with more housing density. Parks are going to be more important in the future than ever before. And, we didn't talk today about the money that we put in the budget for the Woodleaf Park, but we're going to have a presentation soon for that. And we may have other opportunities about park expansion in the years. But I would hope that we think a little bit about that and what we can truly provide for all of the citizens of Rowan County.
Good. Any other priorities?
I just want to backtrack on one thing, Commissioner Pierce. During our competition with Chewy, there was quite a bit of discussion about the success story that has happened in Rowan County with regard to our animals. So I don't think there's any question if we were what we used to be, that would not have happened. They're well aware of the success story, and Commissioner Pierce says we're number 3. It's only because the number 1 and number 2 may have 100 animals total that come in those whole 2 counties, and we've got, 3,000?
Last year was 4,200 animals.
4,200, and by the way, how many dogs and cats that were adoptable were euthanized in the past 2 years? None. It's huge, man. What a story.
Mm-hmm.
Can we make a requirement of adoption that they start using Chewy?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. That's just a suggestion, since I love dogs and cats so much.
Stop digging.
Starting to float now.
So the items you have up here, needing to talk about capital funds for the school system, $1 million for substance abuse, because all of our priorities. Be supportive of the school system as they're facing their different changes. We want to continue our success with animal services, continue in phases to fund airport renovations on the facelift and taxiways, continue to look at Veterans Court, school resource officers expanding there, be strong participants, leaders in the education collaborative, seeking more private investment in Forward Rowan, talk with the municipalities about the gateways and appearance, and continue to look for expansion opportunities with parks. Does this seem like, other than continuing to do everything that you're doing now, seem like your priorities for the coming year?
EMS station.
deliberating, or?
He saw you point at it.
Talk about that opening and what the long term.
Yeah, you want me to talk a little bit about the quick response vehicle? Yeah. Well, as y'all know, we just dedicated our quick response vehicle in Miller's Fair area. I guess last week, maybe. Was it last week? And so it's the first one that we have here in the county. The whole point of this vehicle is it's a lot easier to maintain because you only have one paramedic rides on it, and they can get places quicker. And you can get a paramedic on the scene faster than waiting for an ambulance. And so the paramedic can get there, assess the situation, and they have skills and authority to push certain drugs that EMTs are not able to push into patients. And so get them there quicker for a quicker evaluation of the patient, we hope is going to help save some lives up there. And seeing how it works up there, it may be we may be able to use it in some other areas of the county where the response times are not where we want them to be. And I think the long-term goal up there is to put another EMS station in that general vicinity when we're able to get the funds together, and then you'd have to hire some more workers and those sort of things. But yeah, it's an interesting concept because it was a lot less expensive to get a truck on the road with one paramedic, and I guess they're running up there now 24/7 with that paramedic. And so some of those places is because I guess that area is kind of like on an island or something, the way that the water is up there. So it's very interesting to see how it's going to work. And like I said, we can use it in some other areas, and then hopefully long term we'll be able to build a station up in that area somewhere.
Commissioner Caskey's kind of our eyes and ears for fire and police emergency services, and the fact is the north end of our county, the response time is not good. So he brought this to us. He's right, because of the lake configuration, you got, man, response times are just terrible. I spoke with folks from Miller's Ferry, I think on Tuesday night, and they said in the first 2 days of running that vehicle, they'd had 18 calls already, including one, I don't know if this might be a good story, one for a choking child, a choking infant. So I don't know, I wish we hadn't let him go. I don't know where response vehicles are coming for right now. If you're up Long Ferry Road, do they have to, I don't know where they're coming from, maybe you know. But the response time is horrible, and so now this will serve I-85 North, Long Ferry Road, that end of the lake, and so it's an important thing.
Mr. Chairman, I need to be excused. Take another painkiller.
Anything else?
Go.
I would just make sure the manager doesn't have any questions about any of these items. You're clear. And it sounds like these are things that are reasonable to discuss. You don't need to actually prioritize individual items at this point. That can come later. All right. Well, thank you.
All right. Anything else for our planning session? We certainly appreciate our faithful moderator for being here again this year. Hopefully we'll either see you next year or your next book signing. So thank you for coming down, and we always enjoy seeing you.
You have us all trained now.
Keeping us on task. Good.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, if possible, add a discussion here on a resolution to preserve and defend the Constitution of the United States and North Carolina.
All right, is there any objection?
Okay. Well, I think you all have a copy of it. So I guess you've probably all been getting emails and phone calls and text messages and people coming up to you in public asking you about what's going to happen with all the things going on with around the Second Amendment. I guess it started in Virginia with some of the things that's being proposed up there. It's sort of leaked down here to, well, the actual proposals aren't here in North Carolina, but some of the folks in North Carolina have trying to look ahead what may or may not in the future happen here. So there's a lot of concern out there among the folks, and you know, I've been, like I said, I've been contacted by quite a few people about, are we going to pass some sort of resolution supporting the Second Amendment? And I know that you guys have also. One thing to think about, and we have some experience in it, is that both Virginia and North Carolina are in the same circuit. We're both in the Fourth Circuit. So things that happen in one, if they're appealed up, could have effect in things that happen in the other area. So over the last couple of days, I know that we've had some look at some of the different resolutions that have been passed around, I guess here in the States and some in Virginia. And so I think we have one here that that we've looked at, and as far as I know, we're all sort of in agreement with it in principle. And I guess I can read it unless we want some more discussion before I read it.
That's fine, go ahead.
Okay. Whereas the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the nation, of our nation, and whereas the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution states a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, and whereas Article 1, Section 30 of the North Carolina Constitution states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, and whereas it is further recognized that the Second Amendment to the Constitution guarantees that individual has the right to keep and bear arms in a manner that shall not be infringed, and whereas the Supreme Court of the United States has, through multiple rulings, upheld an individual's right to keep and bear arms with federal, state, and local laws have sought to restrict this right, and whereas the right to bear arms is a fundamental right for self-defense and the defense of others, including family members, the protection of individual liberties, and for the preservation of our United States and Constitution. And whereas it is acknowledged that the right of the individuals to keep and bear arms is under attack in the United States of America by elected officials from multiple levels of government. And whereas the illegal misuse of firearms is not a reason to infringe upon the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens of Rowan County. And whereas the members of the Rowan County Board of Commissioners have taken an oath to defend and uphold the Constitution of the United States and of North Carolina. And whereas the Rowan County Board of Commissioners wishes to express its deep and abiding commitment to protecting all constitutional rights of Rowan County citizens and stand opposed to any laws, regulations, or other acts that would unconstitutionally infringe on the citizens' Second Amendment rights. Now therefore be it resolved, the Rowan County Board of Commissioners declares that it stands as a county that will respect, protect, and defend the Second Amendment rights of the Rowan County citizens. The board will oppose within the limits of the Constitution of the United States and of North Carolina any efforts to unconstitutionally restrict such rights and to use such constitutional means at its disposal to protect the rights of its citizens to keep and bear arms. Furthermore, the Rowan County Board of Commissioners implores the United States Congress, the North Carolina legislature to preserve, uphold, and protect the rights of all law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms under the United States Constitution and reject any provisions, laws, regulations that may infringe, have the tendency to infringe, or place any additional burdens on those rights. Adopted the 10th of January 2020 by the Rowan County Board of Commissioners.
Was that in the form of a motion?
I'll make that in form of a motion.
Second.
Have a second? All right. Discussion.
I just want to make very, very clear to my friends that work in the domestic violence area that under the law, if someone is convicted of domestic violence and the judge orders the removal of all firearms, that will still be legal.
So I don't think it's any secret that this board is, we are a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment, both the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, but also Article 1, Section 30 of the North Carolina Constitution. This is not a stretch for us. We believe that we are a free people and that as such we have a right to defend ourselves as a free people. We are for the lawful use of firearms and do not defend in any way unlawful use. So this is an easy thing for us to declare on behalf of this board that Rowan County wants to be a community that values our right to self-defense and values our Second Amendment under the Constitution and Article 1, Section 30 of the North Carolina Constitution. So anything else? This probably will surprise folks. It's not a, this has been brewing in Rowan County for some time. We've had a lot of folks contacting us. Again, this is an easy move for us. Not hard at all. And so I appreciate we've been in conversations with the commissioners over the past few days, looked at a lot of Virginia and North Carolina examples. And this also happened in Rowan County in 2013, so this is not new. We'll take a stand on this. It's an easy stand, and so we'll move forward.
And I'll just remind the board, talking about the previous resolution, we also passed around the same time resolution stating that we did not think it was proper for concealed carry holders' information to be made public. We've also made sure through the years that some of our laws in the parks were not in line with state law, and we updated those. And then I guess the big thing is that we passed concealed carry on county property several years back. So this is just a continuation of what, as far as I know, every Board of Commissioners going back probably to the creation of the county is probably supported and believed.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. All, thank you for today, for your input. Leslie, we didn't hear you say a word. Anything you want to add? No? Okay then. All right, thank you, County Manager. Thank you again to our host. Carolyn, hope you're feeling better this weekend. Commissioner Pierce, Jim, Judy, Mike, Happy New Year. Hope you feel better. I know you've got a lot going on. So, surgery, my. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.